Doesn't have to be, as we said on Sunday. We've got this conception that the toss has to be half an hour before the start. They can toss at 6:45 and start at 7 o'clock, so there is leeway like that. I think Woody's absolutely right. I think we're going to get some cricket here. This is remarkable.
Never in doubt, is it, Tom? Never in doubt. Never in doubt.
Does happen occasionally.
Yeah. Before we move it away from cricket, clearly it's the main focus tonight, but there are a couple of other stories to bring you, and we'll bring that to you in the next 10 minutes or so. Chiefly a new signing at Burton, and also a little look ahead to the Euros that start tonight. But how would you assess the Falcons' start to the T20 Blast? Tom, obviously a couple of really good wins against Leicestershire on Blast-off day at Edgbaston and against Notts here last week. The defeats have obviously not been great. I mean, Lancashire and Yorkshire, you could probably argue, two counties you expect to be near the top. Indeed, they are numbers 1 and 2 at the moment. The defeat to Northants sets this one up quite nicely, because I'm sure everyone will be keen to make amends to win a game that they were close to winning down at Wantage Road.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of the start, obviously played 5, won 2, lost 3. It's probably not the start they was hoping for. I think they would have probably been happy to be 3 wins out of 5, but to be 2 wins from 5, they're not a million miles away. And similarly to how Zach Chappell spoke in his post-game interview after Headingley, teams generally can have a slow start to this tournament. There's 14 games to play. It is a long time. So 5 games in the grand scheme of it aren't completely vital. It obviously helps to get off to a good start. But if you can put a couple of wins together now and be played 7, won 4, you're in a great position. And I'm sure that's what the boys will be trying to do.
This weekend becomes crucial now, because 2 home games in a row tonight, and then at 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon as well, when the forecast is reasonable. Family day, double header. Women starting the Blaze starting at midday. Derbyshire against Birmingham at 4 o'clock. If they can pick up 2 wins out of these, they then go to Trent Bridge for the final game before the break for 2 championship matches in a reasonably healthy position.
As mentioned, the Worcestershire-Nottinghamshire game is the only one going on currently, and Worcestershire finding it really difficult, 84 for 4, and they've just started the 15th over. Notts, who are 0-5 in the early stages of the D20 Blast, could well be off the mark there. But we'll see. Takes 2 to bat on a pitch and all the rest of it. Tom, for now, thank you. We're back with you in the next 10 minutes or so. Fletch, as you're here, the beauty of you wearing many hats is that we can quickly take off your helmet and put on your football baseball cap to talk about Burton Albion, as you have done quite regularly this week, because they have been busy on the signing front, and there's another one through the door again today.
They just never stop, do they? No. I've no idea what's going on at the moment. Well, I do know what's going on at Burton at the moment at Burton Albion. They've had a takeover. They've had quite a clear out as well. I think there was 6 released. 6 loanees went back to their clubs. Joe Powell was offered a contract but has left for Barnsley, and 3 others, John Brayford, Sam Hughes and Mark Helm, we're yet to hear whether they've signed the contracts that they've been offered, so they are going to need a squad. And yesterday we saw Thomas Kalinowskis come in, we saw Geraldo Bajrami come in, and that was on top of Elliot Watt, who came in earlier in the week. And today, Jason Sraha from Shrewsbury Town has been unveiled as the latest signing. A 3-year contract, 21 years of age, centre-back, and they've paid money for him, an undisclosed fee, which is very un-Burton Albion-like, perhaps a sign of things to come with the new boys in charge.
And it has been quite the week with I know the new manager's been in situ now for a couple of weeks, Mark Robinson, but it does feel, I'm not sure what the right phrase is, but I mean, you want to say rushed, but you don't want to be doing too much of a disservice to Burton, who I'm sure have put due diligence into this, but it does seem the first domino has fallen, and everything seems to be very quickly going into place. You wonder how long these plans have been in place.
Yes, I would hope a reasonable length of time, otherwise they look like panic signings, don't they? We need to fill a squad, and we need to fill it with anybody we can get hold of. I'm fairly sure that these moves to bring players in have been happening for some time. It's interesting that the only person from Burton Albion who's quoted in any of the releases is Bendik Hairada, who is the sporting director. We haven't heard yet from Mark Robinson. We were hoping to hear from him on Monday. That has now been put back a little bit to July due to clashes with diaries and all sorts of things at Burton Albion's end. So those of you who were hoping to hear from the new head coach at Burton Albion on Monday will have to just wait a little bit longer. I would say that Kalinowskis is certainly familiar to Mark Robinson because he spent time on loan at Wimbledon under Mark Robinson, so therefore you would expect he'd know a little bit about him. But this is the model that they've gone for. They've gone for the head coach and the sporting director rather than a manager, and it's the modern way, Chris.
Yes,
isn't it? It's very much the modern way. It's a very continental. Well, it was seen as a very continental way a few years ago, but now it's everywhere.
Now it's absolutely
everywhere. So I don't think we should be too perturbed by that. And as long as Mark Robinson's comfortable with that, which I assume he is, because he signed a contract to be the head coach of Burton Albion, then at the moment we're still waiting to see whether this is a really good thing or whether it isn't a really good thing.
Yes, which leads me on to my final question on Burton, and exactly that. I suppose there is the unknown, but always when you start a season and there's a change over the summer in the managerial position and also signings, that there will inevitably be that sense of excitement at the start of a season because things are different and therefore the season might be different.
I can see a lot of people turning out for home friendlies just to see the new boys, because there will be so many of them. There were quite a lot last year, but a lot of them people had heard of. Cole Stockton being the shining example. Everybody knew what Cole Stockton could do. Didn't work out for him. He's now moved on to Salford City. The only thing that perturbs me, and I said it to Ed last night when we were talking about the two signings that were made yesterday, is that both of them, Kalinowskis and Bejrami, talk about the project. I'm not interested in the project. What I want to see is Burton Albion not fighting against relegation for much of the season, and I'm sure that players say what players say when they're signing up. It's a really friendly club, and everyone that embraced me when I walked through the door, says Jason Straha. Well, they were hardly likely to turn around and say, "What are you doing here? We didn't want you."
Yes.
So until I've spoken to the players themselves, until I've spoken to Mark Robinson and even Bendik Harada, we're sort of waiting to find out exactly what's going on. But something is going on, and that's a start, isn't it?
Yes.
Something is happening, and I think the supporters are quite pleased that something is happening. I think there'll be plenty more through the door as well.
Yes, new player quotes up there with new manager press conferences, really. Whatever you ask, you get the same sort of flavour, and everyone says, didn't he speak really well? He's unlikely not to. And that's no disrespect to anyone who does that sort of thing, because we know it happens every time, but you can't really go wrong with an unveiling of a press conference. Anyway, Fletch, thank you. You can put your helmet back on now. You have news.
Now that I put my helmet back on,
Yeah.
the toss is taking place at the time it was expected to take place.
Oh, okay.
It's actually taking place in front of the players' pavilion away to our left-hand side. I am not going to have time to get out there, so I'm going to wait for the toss here, Chris. But we will have a toss at 6:30.
Excellent. Okay, and we shall bring that news of that to you when news reaches us here on BBC Radio Derby. Before we return to cricket, let's quickly look ahead to the start of the European Championship. Euro 2024 gets underway in 90 minutes' time, with host Germany taking on Scotland. England play their first game against Serbia on Sunday. So who are the favourites? Can England bring it home? Our reporters Ollie Samuels and Bobby Hatchcraft have this rundown of the teams to watch. Lovely time. So this should take us to 6:30, and then we can keep a little ear out for the toss. No, don't worry. Yep. We'll probably, to be honest, if we get news of the toss, then we might chat around that and then play Nye Donald at around 22. About 10-2, and then we can just, Yeah, could you do that? One niller. 2-1. No. Cheers. Ta. Yeah, England are one of the favourites to lift the trophy given the quality of their squad. But some big teams in it, as Ollie Samuels and Bobby Hatchcraft were telling us there. But of England, can they follow in the Lionesses' footsteps and bring it home? Gabby Logan thinks so. She's helping lead the BBC coverage and has once again been chatting to our reporter, Bobby Hatchcraft. Cool, and then we'll chat about the toss.
If we could ask the Steelback skipper to make his way towards our umpires for the toss, please.
Oh dear. Firm. Thank you. I knew you would have done, Mitch. High praise. Fair. Yeah. Oh, 50 will do. Yeah, top.
Both skippers just going through a few housekeeping rules with this evening's umpires. Just a mention of our...
There are times, yes.
...and BSB consulting rather, and keeping reliable...
You get used to it.
...with AD and Ollie Radford here as our match ball sponsors this evening.
Covers are off the pitch. The teams are warming up. The toss is taking place. It's been quite a protracted toss because the Northants captain David Willey took a little bit of time to get away from his bowling position, then have a little look at what looks a very green-looking pitch and make his way all the way across to join Samit Patel and the umpires. Dave Fletcher keeping a keen eye on the toss.
I don't think it's going to dry out any of the pitch, is it? Here we go. Samit Patel tosses the coin, and
nobody knows.
Derbyshire won the toss, and they're going to have a bowl. There you go. So we got there in the end. So Derbyshire win toss and bowl, and we get Woody to put his cans on, and we'll say that's exactly what we expected, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Anytime there's rain around, you'll always find that teams are going to bowl first so they can chase. With Duckworth Lewis involved, they'll have control of the innings a bit more. They know exactly what they need. It just makes sense to. It's always an advantage to bat second when there's rain around.
Yeah, just for those, and conscious that obviously people often listen and don't really know the nuances and understand the game of cricket, a sport that has, as we know, many idiosyncrasies and strange elements to it. Just explain why that is, with weather around, with the possibility that the game might be shortened. Why is it of benefit to field first?
Because if you're batting first and you think you've got 20 overs to bat, the team would generally play according to that as 20 overs. Say you bat your 20 overs, then it rains at half time and the game gets shortened to 10 over game. You've played your innings thinking it's going to be a 20 over game and played accordingly, whereas the opposition then know that we've only got 10 overs to bat now and this is the score we need, and they can then play with a lot more risk and a lot more freedom, knowing they've only got 10 overs to bat instead of 20.
I'm glad you asked Woody and not me. You are me.
I thought you was going to ask me what Duckworth Lewis is then. I thought,
we haven't got
a little bit
we
over
have
my
not
head,
got time for that. If we got underway at 9:30 with a 5 over aside, then we might ask you to explain.
I might need the laws.
Duckworth Lewis Stern these days, isn't it? We've added another name to it.
I believe, I will confirm this as soon as I possibly can, but I believe Derbyshire making one change and Alex Thompson drops out and Mitch Wagstaff comes back in. So it's going to be the side that beat Notts here last Friday. Tomo came into the side at Headingley, off spin, lots of left-handers at the top of the Yorkshire batting. We were told by Samit at the toss, weren't we? It was a tactical thing. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out for Alex Thompson. His first over went for a few, and in the end, well, he didn't pick up a wicket. Hardly anybody did. Just Darren Dupavilon, and Wagstaff's done nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong, so he gets his place back.
Yeah, and that's fair enough, isn't it, Tom? If your talk to Mitch, if you like, is you've done nothing wrong, but we're going with Alex Thompson because of the number of left-handers at the top of the Yorkshire order, then if you're Mitch Wagstaff, you kind of fully expect to be back in the fold the next game, and he is. Yeah,
you do, and that's clear communication from the coach. Like you said, he's not done anything wrong. Just so happens that the matchups were more in favour of Tomo against Yorkshire, and he has done very well against Yorkshire in the past, bowling at their left-handers, so that does make sense. And yeah, it was good. Obviously, if Tomo comes in and has a day out and puts in a big performance in, then he probably would keep his place for this game. But like you said, didn't quite go the way he or Derbyshire would have hoped for, and Mitch, who's obviously done nothing wrong, is straight back into the team.
And you talk about how the dynamics of the game changes when it might be a shortened game, and how it might change the emphasis of the batting innings. Does it change anything if you're the fielding side? I suppose the premise is still take as many wickets as you can and concede as fewer runs as you can.
Yeah, that's always the general premise. It does change quite a lot as a fielding team with the rain around, and because the outfield is now going to be wet, which therefore makes the ball wet, which makes it very difficult for the spinners to grip the ball. They won't get as much turn as they normally would. They won't have as much control. If the ball's a little bit wet, the seam gets a bit wet, and the same can be said for the seamers as well. It'll be harder for them to go through their variations because the ball will be a little bit slippery, and the same is also said for the fielders. The outfield is obviously going to be wet. It can be slippery. The ball can skid on. Like we know, the outfield here at Derby is a little bit bobbly, and it's just going to skip on even quicker with the rain. So it does complicate things. It makes things harder, but in a 20 over game it's going to be the same for both teams. It's not going to change enough during a course of 20 overs that the team bowling second is going to have a dry ball. So it's the same for both teams. So whoever handles the conditions, adapts to them, and plays best will come out on top.
Amusingly, well, I think it's funny. David Willey refused to go to the toss until he'd seen the pitch, which is now being mown. So it would have changed from the moment but he didn't win the toss anyway, so he didn't have any say in it as it is. And the floodlights are coming on. We always get the lights on. They were on in glorious sunshine this time last week. There is blue sky up above. We may well get some more sunshine before the evening is done. I hope so for the spectators' sake, because there's a lot of winter coats on out there.
I know.
It's always a duller looking crowd when the winter coats are on, because they're not bright colours. I don't see the great T-shirts and the Hawaiian shirts and people in their shorts and all the rest of it. None of that tonight, I'm afraid.
There'll be a few bubble hats. There'll be a few bubble hats on display, I imagine. Tom Fletcher has already mentioned some of the Northants talent. You look at the batting, you look at the lineup full stop, and obviously the two names that spring out, Ravi Bopara and David Willey. They've had a good start to the competition, 3 wins from 4 matches, and a team that have always had pretty good one-day pedigree. They're a team that often performs a lot better in the limited over format than the red ball game.
Yeah, definitely. I think Ravi Bopara and David Willey are 2 very experienced players with a proven track record in white ball cricket. So they're obviously their two main batters. Ravi obviously got 50 not out against Derbyshire earlier on in the campaign and got him over the line, and that's what he's been brought in to do. And his bowling's very, very tricky as well. He's got lots of variations and mixes it up and can be very difficult in all conditions. So yeah, them two, and David Willey as well, obviously. He's played a lot of white ball international cricket for England, left arm seamer in the power play, will swing that ball back. It's a great option, and it's a wicket-taking option as well.
It's interesting their side. Back in the day when they had the enormous South African contingent, and when I say enormous South African contingent, I don't mean it was a large contingent of South Africans. They were enormous human beings, weren't they? The likes of Rory Kleinfeld, who's out there somewhere because he's the bowling coach now, Richard Levy, who could just come in and tee off from the first ball they faced. Kleinfeld is massive. He was massive when he was playing, and he hasn't got any smaller since he retired. And they were almost a side built for one-day cricket. I remember a red ball game here. It must have been played in April, because for the first 3.5 days, whenever the Northamptonshire players were in the field, they had bobble hats on. They didn't look interested. Derbyshire set them a total, something like 360 off 60 overs. They came to life, and they won it with a 6 off the last ball of the match, and I think it was Kleinfeld who hit it from memory. They were always that kind of side, and they had really good success in the T20 Blast. This isn't as good a team, but there are some very, very good individuals, as Woody's highlighted. I like Sikandar Raza, the Zimbabwean. He's a very fine player as well, and they've got players who can hurt you if you let them, but the game at Wantage Road was so close.
Yeah.
It was the very final ball of the 20 overs that they scored the winning runs from. It could have gone either way. And unfortunately, the way that they calculated it ended up with Lewis Rees bowling the last over, which he'd never done before. He went for 6 off the first ball of the last over. And Northamptonshire eventually won it. He did exceptionally well up to that point as well. So there's nothing between these. There's nothing to choose between these sides, as Woody was saying, and there's no reason why Derbyshire can't avenge that defeat from Wantage Road.
Yes, and before we hear from Aneurin Donald, who is he's forming a bit of a residency with Jack Tymon over the summer, and he's always good value is nice. So we'll hear from him in a moment. But before with that, Tom, just as Fletcher alluded to there, because they've played so recently, does that have any bearing on how you approach a match? You often hear, well, we're going to be out for revenge. Does that form any part of your pre-match thinking as a player?
I don't think revenge comes into it so much. I think the boys will be keen to put the last game behind them. Obviously, I think they probably should have got over the line, if they're being honest with themselves, last game against Northampton, so they will want to put that right. But I think at this stage of the competition, you're just trying to win every game you can, regardless of who it's against, regardless of the result in the previous game as well.
And just having a look at those games, I'm sure you'll give the scores in a moment or two, possibly, but they have had the toss at Birmingham as well. So the weather's okay in Worcester, the weather's okay in Birmingham. And fingers crossed that weather, which is coming from that direction, will allow us to get a proper game of cricket in here.
Well, there's no question we're going to start on time because it's as bright as it has been throughout the day, which is great. Floodlights still on, but lots of blue sky above. And the news from the middle, Derbyshire have won the toss and will be fielding first. So Northants will be setting a target, and then Derbyshire will, in theory, be chasing, but they may well be chasing a revised score if the weather intervenes a little later. Full commentary online and on DAB digital radio when we get underway at 7 o'clock. And Irene Donald then, who was undoubtedly the bright spark at Headingley on Sunday, smashing his way to 84 from just 41. He'll be top of the order again when Derbyshire eventually get out into the middle. For now, he's been speaking with Jack Timon about all sorts, and with Download this weekend, Jack began by asking if Nye was much of a festival goer. Lovely stuff, thank you.
Well done, everybody.
Well done, got through. No, you might have gone into the studio actually.
That is a remarkable effort by Neil Godrich and his team.
Yep. It is.
I need a wee.
limited overs player, 43 from 35, and Ed Pollock, 26 from 17, the two former Warwickshire batters there, rescuing Worcestershire a little bit, 141 for 6, and there are plenty of other matches taking place that are either just underway or are around half an hour in. Gloucestershire 50 without loss against Surrey. It's raining in Somerset. Are we concerned about that? Maybe not. Somerset's a bit too far away for us to be worried about that.
I'm never worried about rain in Somerset.
That's also true, yeah. That's also very true. If it rains in Taunton, then you don't get much from that.
That'll hit Worcester before it hits us.
Yes, true. Lancashire 55 for 3 against Leicestershire in the 5th over. Lancs have had a very good start to the T20 Blast. Middlesex, Hampshire in the South Group gets underway at 7, as does Essex against Sussex, also in the South Group. And in the T20 World Cup, not much has happened. In fact, nothing has happened, because they abandoned the match at Fort Lauderdale between USA and Ireland. That's a real shame for the US, because they could have qualified for the Super 8s had they won that, but it's rained, so no play possible in Fort Lauderdale between USA and Ireland. Tom Wood and Dave Fletcher. Well, Fletch, we have to say 10 out of 10 for Neil Godridge and his staff, because I must admit, an hour ago, even though all the signs were relatively positive, mainly from Tom, you couldn't help but look and think, whoa, this will take some effort to clear.
You know, all through the afternoon, when we were sitting here watching it rain and then stop and the sun came out and still no ground staff, and then it rained again and the sun came out, still no ground staff. We're wondering, what on earth are they doing? They know things, ground staff, that normal people don't know. And we all pore over the rain radars, and we've been looking at them all afternoon and into the evening as well. But Neil Godridge knows when he can take those covers off, when he can cut the pitch, when he can put the discs down for the 30-yard circle, and it is absolutely remarkable that we're going to get away on time, and I just hope that the weather now rewards Neil Godridge and those who have come in so far. There won't be any walk-ups. I think these will mostly be tickets pre-sold. If you fancy a game of cricket, watching a game of cricket, get yourself down, because I think we could be in for a belter. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those, Tom, where you can look at all the rain radars and look at all the weather apps, but it just feels like one of those nights. You just hope you're lucky, and the rain might come, but you just hope it just swerves one way or the other.
Yeah, it's always the case. Whenever there's a little bit of rain around, don't be fooled. Both sets of players and coaches will be scouring multiple weather forecasts, multiple radars to see what might happen, what might not happen. But yeah, like we spoke about earlier, players are used to it now, and thankfully it's cleared up, and hopefully it'll stay clear and we're able to get out underway.
Yeah, it will be very shortly getting underway. The two umpires leading out Derbyshire Falcons. Samit gets his team in a huddle just shy of the 30-yard circle, and the two Northants openers not too far behind. So it was in doubt, but we do have a game of cricket, and we hope we get a game of cricket from start to finish, uninterrupted by the weather. Derbyshire Falcons against Northants Steelbacks in the T20 Blast. Derbyshire looking to get back on track after that defeat to Yorkshire. Tom Wood and Dave Fletcher.
Thank you, Chris Coles. Yeah, good evening and welcome to the county ground in Derby. I didn't think I'd be saying that, I have to say, at one point, but it is remarkable. We've got a game of cricket on. We're going to see Derbyshire bowl first. I'll be fairly sure it's Darren Dupavalon, because he's already removed his cap and his sweater. The clues are always there. And just a reminder that if you are listening on FM and you want to carry on listening to the cricket, FM will be disappearing in about a minute's time for the news. We'll let you know, but you need to retune to DAB AM or join us online via the BBC Sport website and app. You will find us there for the duration of this match, for as long as it takes for hopefully Derby to pick up their third victory of the season. Unbeaten at home, of course. Leicestershire at Edgbaston was a home game. They won that. And last week against the Notts Outlaws, they won that as well. And it is indeed, as I said, Darren Dupavalon who's going to bowl. I'll give you the Northants side actually in a moment. Ricardo Vasconcelos and Matthew Breedska, the South African, are going to open up. It's the unmistakable figure of Vasconcelos, the shortest cricketer in Britain. He's one of my favourites, though, as well, Woody. I won't ask you to comment on him just yet, because we are going to send FM away, possibly before the first ball has been bowled in this match, with a little bit of luck, as the fielders just get themselves sorted. So if you are listening on FM, you're going to listen to Letitia George from about 3 minutes past 7. That is after the latest BBC news on BBC Radio Derby. Don't forget AM, DAB and online. And the first delivery has been bowled. And there's no run, so it's a good start. And I can breathe again. And Breetzke, they didn't have, these weren't the openers in the first game of the season. I'm trying to remember, rack my brains to see who opened. It was Emilio Gay. Of course it was Emilio Gay, who's not playing this evening. He opened with Ricardo Vasconcelos, who is on strike now, as around the wicket comes Darren Dupavilon, and that one is driven but not timed out into the onside. Wayne Madsen does the fielding. You spotted Wayne Madsen bowling before, didn't you?
I did, yeah. He was warming up, having a bowl, and I spoke to him probably a couple of weeks ago now, and he said his shoulder is starting to feel a lot better, and he was hoping he might get the chance to turn his arm over at some point during the competition.
Just gives him an extra little option.
Exciting news, yeah.
Yeah. Wayne Madsen bowled the first over in that game against Hampshire. I remember that didn't go according to plan, but...
to be fair to Mads, he did do it extraordinarily in every game of that
He did,
season.
didn't he? Dupavilon bowls, that's driven into the ground, into the offside by Vasconcelos, straight to Samit Patel, who's fielding as ever at
I think
extra
Wayne
cover.
won the MVP that year as well in the T20.
Yes,
Because he opened the bowl and bowled 4 overs for not very many every single game, and then obviously batted how he always bats. He smashed it all over.
Yes, with all his little trick shots as well, which are always a joy to watch. Especially that one when he just taps it over the wicketkeeper's head. It must be really infuriating for a bowler, but it's great to watch.
Speaking of great to watch, I always thought Vasconcelos is one of the most aesthetically pleasing batters on the circuit. Everything just looks so easy for him. It looks like he's got so much time.
But he taps that one into the offside. It's fielded again by Samit Patel. He's also the only professional cricketer I've seen put on his backside by 2 different Derbyshire bowlers. In a T20 match...
Is that a stat that's measured, or...?
No, it's just a bit I've remembered. He was put on his backside by Lockie Ferguson in a T20 match here, and earlier on this season in the county championship he ended up on his backside. I'm fairly sure it was Dupavilon who dumped him on the ground on that occasion as well. So, but you're right, he's left-handed, which always helps, doesn't it? 4 deliveries he's faced so far, though. They haven't got a run yet, Northamptonshire, and they're not going to get one here either, as Pat Brown moves to his left and fields a backward point. 5 dot balls to begin the match. This is some start from Dupavilon. He needs to get out the over, of course.
It is a brilliant over, and there's just a little field change before that ball. They normally operate with a very wide, deep third man, or a deep backward point, whatever you want to call it, and he came up for that ball, and fine leg has gone back as well, and that remains the field for the last ball of the over. So it would generally indicate he's going to try and bowl straight and back of a length, if not short.
Here we go then. Around the wicket comes the South African, bowls. It's a full delivery. It's driven up to mid-off, and we have a maiden over. You don't see many of those in T20 cricket. A maiden over bowled by Darren Dupavilon first up. So it means that Northamptonshire now have 19 overs in which to set Derbyshire a target rather than 20. Wow,
that always helps.
I'm not sure.
Tick one off to start with.
You know, I'm not sure I've ever seen a maiden.
Ever?
Well, I've seen a maiden in
T20 cricket.
Yes, in T20 cricket. Sorry, I should have perhaps made that clearer.
I'm sure Griff will have the stats.
Oh, he will.
The first over of the game being a maiden. When was that?
That'll come under miscellaneous T20 records, I fancy. So, no, it doesn't. Excellent. It might come under bowling records, and let's have a look at that if we can find that, which I've got. And it's not there either. So, Zach Chappell, I'll have to ask Griff at half-time when the last maiden bowled by a Derbyshire bowler was in T20 cricket. Unless you know...
Even more interestingly, the first over of a T20 match being a maiden.
Yes. Zach Chappell then bowling to Breetzke, who defends this ball into the onside when Madsen comes around to do the fielding. 0 for 0 after 7 deliveries. I thought this was all crash bang wallop. It's all about the batters.
Normally is, yeah, especially in the power play. But I think sometimes when it's rained a bit and people have been sat around, I think batsmen generally want to just try and get a feel for the conditions a little bit, whether they think the rain's going to have an effect on the pitch. Obviously coupled with the fact that Pavlon's bowled brilliantly.
Chappell bowls.
It's a lovely shot as well.
Pushed into the offside, straight to an Aaron Donald. No run. 8 deliveries. What's the
I was just
longest consecutive dot balls in T20
has there ever
cricket.
been back-to-back maidens? Is that too?
I'm not going to look it up
to ask the
yet.
question?
Well, I think it might be. But I'm going to start typing things here because I'm sure.
I just feel like something's happening there. There's so much pressure as a batter in the T20 to score, and having faced 8 dots, something's got to give.
Chappell bowls. He's guided that down to short third man. There might be a shy at the stumps. There's actually a bowl underarm from David Lloyd at the stumps, and they are up and running. So 8 consecutive dot balls ended by a single for Matthew Breitsker, the South African, and the Northants Steelbacks are 1 without loss after 9 deliveries. The current run rate, I've got to say it because it'll be on here. The current run rate actually hasn't chalked up yet. It still says 0. It'll be 0 point something. Here is Chappell again. He's bowling around the wicket to the left-handed Vasconcelos, who cracks this out into the offside way. Madsen puts his body on the line. It hits his shoulder, which meant that he'd stopped it going for a boundary. I don't think Ross Whiteley would have got round there. That was hit fairly hard by Vasconcelos, who is also off the mark. Brave from Wayne Madsen there, who just shakes his head. It's not a warm night. I mean, in the sun it was beautiful earlier, and it was quite warm, but as soon as that sun disappears, the temperature seems to plummet, so it's not the most what's the word I'm looking
Favourable
for?
conditions
Yes,
for
favourable
fielding.
conditions for fielding.
There's another
Absolutely.
field of change there for Zach. He's brought that deep backward point up, and they've gone deep mid-wicket and deep backward square. One of Zach's super strengths is bowling his slower ball into the pitch, so that might be on its way now.
Balls to Breitsker. It's a
gone
full
full.
delivery. It's a full toss in the end, and it's been hit away for 4 runs. He'll be a little bit angry with himself there, Zach Chappell. He missed the Yorker and bowled a full toss to Breitsker. The first boundary of the match, 6 without loss. 2 balls, 1 ball left of the second over.
Yeah, I'd like to think that's a bit of a double bluff from Zach. With that field set, it looks like he's trying to bowl straight into the pitch, and as I mentioned before, I was expecting a slower ball into the pitch there to get hit out to them 2 boundary riders. But I think he's tried to be unpredictable, double bluff him and go for a fast Yorker, but as Fletch said, he's just missed it a little bit there.
The final ball of the second over. Northampton just 6 without loss. Chappell balls to Breitsker, who can do nothing other than defend that ball straight back to Chappell. 6 runs off the over. 6 without loss after 2. I'll make the current run rate 3 and over. That's as far as my maths is ever going to get.
Breitsker was just looking at the pitch a little bit suspiciously there after that last ball from
Good.
Chappell, maybe indicating that it's bounced a little bit more than he was expecting, which we generally saw. I think this is the same pitch as we played Notts on last Friday, and we saw with that new ball early on in both innings there was a little bit of extra bounce for the new ball, so maybe that's there again tonight.
So it's going to be Pat Brown for the first time this evening from the City End here on BBC Radio Derby, DAB, AM and online via the BBC Sport website. And he's going to be bowling to Ricardo Vasconcelos, who has a swing and a miss outside the off-stump first ball. That was a pace-on delivery from Pat Brown because the ball was passed him before he played the shot. The next one will be pace-off and he'll play the shot before the ball arrives. We've seen the film before, we've read the book, but still, batters can't cope with Pat Brown and his variations. I was talking to Zach Chappell yesterday on Sports Scene at 6 last night. Zach came on live with us. It'll still be there on the BBC Sounds app, of course, as Brown is in again and bowls. And that was a
Scored it perfectly,
yeah,
Fletch.
well, you know. When you've seen as much cricket as I have, Woody, it just felt like he should bowl slower after. Anyway, but he was saying that Chappell and Brown, they're sort of competing with each other, not for a place in the side, clearly, because they're both going to play, but, you know, different variations and what can you do, and have you tried doing this? And it must be great for both of them to be able to bounce off each other, along with Darren Dupavalon, who is a pretty good T20 player in his own right, as Brown bowls to Vasconcelos, driven, and Samit Patel's put it down. At extra cover, he had a juggle with it, put it down, and Vasconcelos gets a life on 1. The Steelbacks moved to 7 without loss. That was a real opportunity.
Yeah, it was. Like we said, off to a brilliant start so far. Pat Brown mixing his pace up. He's gone with the pace on there, and Vasconcelos he struck it pretty well straight at Samit Patel, and he had a juggle with it. I thought he had it at first, but couldn't quite hold on to it. It's disappointing. That would have been a brilliant start for Derbyshire to get that early wicket. We know how vital it is to take wickets in the power play.
3 of them.
3. We all know what that means.
We all know what that means. We all know what that means. We don't need to tell anybody anymore. No.
Everybody knows.
Here is Pat Brown, halfway through his first over, 7 without loss. Northamptonshire guided down the short third man, and the dive there from Mitch Wagstaff doesn't stop the ball, and it runs away to the boundary. A second boundary for Matthew Breetzke. He moves on to 9, and it's 11 without loss in the third over.
Do we think the Pavlon's coming again?
Yes, I think
3 in a row last Friday, didn't he? How many did he bowl on Sunday in the power play? Did he go back to back again, or you can't remember?
I've no idea. It's weeks ago, wasn't it, last Sunday?
I'd expect him to come again.
I think he'll replace Zach Chappell, and Chappell will come on possibly at the City end. Here is Brown bowling. That one's whipped into the leg side by Breetzke. He seems to have his eye in now. Out towards the mid-wicket boundary for 4, and Aaron Donald is out there but stood no chance, couldn't get round in time, and Pat Brown looks a little forlorn as he walks back to his mark. Another boundary for Northampton to move to 15 without loss.
Pat Brown's been a little bit hard done by this over. He's had a drop catch, he's had a thick edge that probably should have been stopped at short third man, and then he's just been pulled off back of a length for 4.
Yes.
Unlucky, but that's what happens in T20 cricket. As Fletcher always tells me, it's a batter's game.
Well, it is. 15 without loss. Brown bowls. It's a full toss. Breetzke lifts this somehow, scoops it over fine leg for 4 runs. I'm not sure if that's entirely where he intended the ball to go, but it's been quite a profitable shot from him in the end. The end of the over, 19 without loss, 13 runs off the over, and a drop catch. And without the drop catch, Breetzke wouldn't have been on strike, which is making it slightly more galling for Pat Brown. And you're absolutely right. Darren Dupavillon has removed his sweater and will bowl from the racecourse end.
Hopefully he can replicate Friday night and get a couple of wickets in this over.
He got Clark early, didn't he?
He did,
Clark early last week.
First ball.
Yeah. Ended up with 3 wickets in the end against Notts. I do have those stats with me. 3 for 15 from 3 overs. He only bowled 3 overs. Pat Brown 3 for 17 off 2.4, and Ross Whiteley 3 for 23 off 4. Dupavillon on a run of 6 successive dot balls.
2 off 10. Something's happening.
In and bowls, and that one is cut away. The first runs off Darren Dupavillon of the evening as Vasconcelos moves on to 3. 20 without loss. If David Griffin can't tell me the last time a bowler bowled a maiden over for Derbyshire in a T20, I will be staggered. But unfortunately, he's out there at the moment with his long lens, so we might catch up with him at half-time, and if not, we shall find out at the close of play. I can't seem to find anything that suggests Mohammed Irfan bowled 23 successive dot balls. That was the world record in a T20. 23 successive dot balls. What kind of pitch was that?
Who was he bowling at?
Dupavillon bowls. That's off an edge and it bounces awkwardly in front of David Lloyd and goes away down to third man for 4 more. Breetzke sort of living dangerously, but you have to in a power play, I suppose. He picks up another boundary, moves on to 21 now, 24 without loss.
I think that one and the one before off Pat Brown that has gone down to third man just highlight the difference that the rain makes on the outfield. It's just them two both look like they've just skidded on and almost beat Mitch Wagstaff and David Lloyd for pace there. They've got onto him a bit quicker than they expected. Does make it hard fielding when it's wet.
Yes, absolutely. Breetzke waits as Dupavillon bowls to him, and that one is guided into the offside. Backward of square. They've run the first one really quickly. Around comes Pat Brown. Don't take his arm on, or in fact take his arm on, because it would have been a run out, no question. He's got a terrific arm in the deep, Pat Brown. 25 without loss, 22 to Breetzke. That Mohammed Irfan spell, he was playing for Barbados Tridents in the Caribbean Premier League. He finished with figures of 4 overs, 3 maidens, 2 for 1. But his team lost to St Kitts and Nevis. I mean, goodness me, what on earth was going on there?
Who bowled the other 16 overs?
Well, I don't know. They weren't very good, clearly. And, of course, this man, Dupavillon, has played for the Trinbago Knight Riders in the CPL. Around the wickets. He's bowling full at middle stump, which is now leaning back. Vasconcelos, absolutely no chance. He just nods his head towards Breetzke and walks from the field. And another wicket for Darren Dupavillon. Vasconcelos goes for 3. Northamptonshire are 25 for 1.
Yeah, that's that Yorker that Mickey spoke very highly of. He said it's Dupavillon's most dangerous weapon, and he's proved that there. I think Vasconcelos was setting up for something aggressive there, something big, and De Pavlon's just executed his Yorker perfectly and knocked his middle stump back. We talked him up as well before the innings started, and I probably put the commentator's curse on him again, Fletch.
Yes, we're not going to see his attractive batting any longer, as he's taken a good while to get off. He's barely halfway to the boundary at the moment. Vasconcelos. David Willey is the new batter, and we all know how destructive David Willey can be. When he bowls later on, we'll see probably one of the few exponents of swing bowling with a white ball. It is remarkable. Left armour, of course, very poorly treated by the England setup. Was in the World Cup, the 50 over World Cup, the only man who wasn't offered a central contract, so he decided enough was enough. I'm going to retire from international cricket. The sun is out here at the county ground, and Darren Du Pavillon is on his way in at 25 for 1 to bowl to Willie. Short delivery that really takes off and is called no ball for height. So 2 more to the total, 27 for 1, but not a free hit. As Neil Mallender, our 2 umpires today. Neil Mallender, who's standing at the racecourse, and Neil Pratt, who's at square leg. Yeah, I was just checking that he is at square leg because Willie's left-handed. Our match referee, James Whittaker, is also with us this evening. There's also somebody very important from the ECB in the Britain media room, but nobody knows his name. It's like spying on them, see what they're saying. 27 for 1. 2 balls of the Du Pavillon over remain. 1 for 8 his figures at the moment. He's in and bowls to Willie, who drives, and Du Pavillon tries to get a hand on it, and so does the sliding man at mid-on, who is Mitch Wagstaff. They go through for a single in the end. It was eventually fielded by Cam Fletcher, the man with the best name in the Derbyshire squad. I've always liked the name Cam.
I think he's got the best arms in the Derbyshire squad now as well. He's absolutely ginormous.
Yes, and a really strong Kiwi accent as well. I do like to hear a strong New Zealand accent. He, of course, one of the 2 overseas players in the Derbyshire ranks. The other one has the ball in his hand at the moment. He's got 1 ball of his second over left to bowl. 9 runs off this one. He's picked up a wicket in it as well, and he bowls to his fellow South African Breitske, who just guides it down to the third man. There's going to be a shot at the stumps. There isn't going to be a shot at the stumps from David Lloyd as Breitske picks up a single. He moves to 23, and at the end of that over, there were 10 runs from it, but there was the wicket. 29 for 1 after 4 overs. We're going to see the wicket again here on the big screen. No, we're not. Yes, we are. It was just a little stop before he bowled, but there's no way you're keeping that out, is there really? Full straight, middle stump leaning backwards.
Swung a bit as well. Might have been what it did for Vasconcelos.
Yeah, he was away celebrating. Was Du Pavillon, who was picked up in it's only his 4th match, but he now has 6 wickets to his name, 3 against Notts and 1 each in the other 2 matches. Didn't play in the first couple of games of the season. Blair Tickner, who has since returned home, was preferred to him, as Derbyshire went with just 1 overseas for the first 3 matches, which was interesting. Here's Zach Chappell returning from the city in and bowls, and rather tucks up Breitske there as he turns it into the leg side. And Aaron Donald, who for some reason is wearing spectacles on the top of his hat, loses them as he bends down to field the ball. Is that just a feel thing? You'll be able to tell me. You like a cool pair of shades.
I did,
Tom, didn't you?
You're right. I think, to be fair to him, it's just being prepared for all situations, because as you rightly mentioned 2 minutes ago, the sun was out, and in these evening games the sun gets very low over to our right, and he might need them, so fair play to him for having them. It's better to have them and not need them than need them and not have them, Fletch.
Yes, always be prepared. Willie turns that one into the leg side for a single, 31 for 1, fielded by Wayne Madsen. What was it? Fail to prepare. That's the one, yeah. We all know what we're saying here. Fail to prepare, prepare to fail, or something like that. Yes, 31 for 1. I'm in no position to tell people to prepare. Here comes Chappell. City end balls to Breitske, lifts him for 6 out towards the car park. In fact, it might hit the bar, will it? It bounces over the bar and into the car park. That's a big hit off Zach Chappell. Breitske moves to 30, 37 for 1. It is often, well, it's often the 6th over that gets targeted. This is only the 5th. So an interesting start with no runs off the first over and 37 in the 3 overs and 1 ball since.
Yeah, that's an extraordinary shot from Bretska. He's cleared the boundary by a long way there, and it's just potentially was prompting a change in the field, but I think they might have changed their mind. No, looks like third man is coming up, and deep mid-wicket, I'd imagine, is probably going to go out there.
I think what we're doing, I was trying to work out what Aaron Donald was doing. They're waiting for the ball.
Can we have our ball back, please?
Somebody has gone to fetch it. I think there's a couple of stewards working hard out there. There's one of the Derbyshire substitute fielders. Looks like Harry Kane's gone jogging round the car park. We'll enjoy that, won't he, Harry? To try to find the ball. It's somewhere in between the burgers and fries and the bar.
I've ended up in that burger van in someone's bun.
I don't know what that... Oh, Toasties, it says next to it. It's on my eyes. Even though I've got these glasses on, I need my eyes testing again. It says Toasties next to it. The burgers and fries. This is all irrelevant. Let me tell you what's happening elsewhere. 104 for 5 Lancashire in the 13th over against Leicestershire down at Grace Road. Still raining in Taunton. Birmingham have put Yorkshire into bat after 3.5 overs. Yorkshire at 27 for 1. Nottinghamshire currently 35 for 1, chasing 142 to beat Worcestershire at New Road. They need a further 107 from 87 deliveries. They would be favourites if they hadn't lost their first 5 matches of the season. That has to have an effect on confidence. And in the South Group, as we continue to wait for the ball to come back, Essex 45 without loss, having decided to bat first against Sussex at Chelmsford. They're in the 5th over there. Middlesex, the worst T20 side in the country, and that includes Notts, are 36 for 2 against Hampshire at Southampton. Hampshire put Middlesex in to bat, and Gloucestershire are 95 for 4 in the 13th over against Surrey at the Oval. Surrey put Gloucestershire in to bat, and we have a ball, which is always useful. What we don't want is too many delays, because if the rain does come, you don't want to be wasting 5 minutes looking for a ball, really, do you, in the long grass. Anyway, we're ready again. Halfway through his second over here, Zach Chappell, 37 for 1, just been hit for 6 by Bretska, who turns this one into the leg side now. Then they're thinking about 2 here, and I think they're going to get them. No, they're not going to get them. That's excellent work by the Derbyshire fielders to show the intent to get to the ball. It was Cam Fletcher who got there in the end and threw the ball back in. So Bretska moves to 31. Our very good friend Joe Shakic is actually not far from the dugouts. He's just informed me the ball sailed right over his head and into the car park. He could have gone to help find it, really, couldn't he? We'll perhaps try and catch up with Joe later on. We'll certainly catch up with him in the next week or so on BBC Radio Derby. 38 for 1. In comes Chappell and bowls to Willie, who defends that one straight back to the Derbyshire bowler. And there's no run. Now he needs to get out of the over, having conceded that 6. Bowled a couple of good deliveries prior to it and a couple of good deliveries since it. So as a result, has conceded 9 runs so far. 0 for 15, and then 1 more over of power play after that for the Northamptonshire Steelbacks. In comes Chappell, and to complete his second over, bowls to Willie, who defends that one, and he has got out of it really nicely. End of the over, 9 runs from it, 38 for 1 Northamptonshire, with 1 over of power play to go.
And it's going to be De Pavlon again, free in the power play.
I think it sort of makes sense, doesn't it? You know you've got Chappell, and you know you've got Brown to bowl the death overs. So if De Pavlon's in a nice groove, which he clearly is, 1 for 10 off 2 overs, having bowled that maiden, Sammett's already warming up. We'll see, no doubt, Mitch Wagstaff wheeling his arms around. You might see Wayne Madsen come on for an over, who knows? We haven't seen David Lloyd bowl yet. We didn't see Ross Whiteley at Leeds, and that surprised me a little bit, and I haven't spoken to anybody in a senior position to ask them why. I'm sure we'll get the opportunity if it arises. Here comes De Pavlon then, in to bowl to Bretska, who just guides that down to third man. It's fielded by Lloyd.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Ross will bowl tonight, if required. I think it will be a tough ask for Mitch Wagstaff to bowl his leg spin to David Willey. Mm-hmm. Perfect spinning into him. wet ball, hard to grip it. I think that'd be a big ask.
Yeah, this is no disrespect to Ross Whiteley at all. He was a supremely fit elite athlete. Do you think bowling twice in 3 days might have been a bit much for him? I don't know. Could be.
I don't think so.
No? I'm going to ask him. Dupavel bowls full delivery, and Willie digs that one out. Does well to dig it out as well. Straight to an Aaron Donald at mid-wicket. Just makes it sort of didn't make any sense when pace off the ball was clearly the way forward. It's the way Yorkshire went in the second half of the innings, and yet we didn't see a man who'd picked up 3 wickets on the Friday night. But
yeah, especially when you're searching for wickets and chasing the game, which Derbyshire always were in that second innings, needed to try something to find a wicket, left arm option, something different. Last game, bowled like God's dad, and didn't get a bowl the next game.
yes,
A little bit surprising, but
these things happen. Here is Dupavel around the wicket bowling to Willie, who launches him out into the leg side. There's nobody out there, and it wouldn't have mattered if there was, because it's just crept over the boundary for 6. He was always going to play that shot. It looked pretty much premeditated to me. A little bit of fade. It was one of those golf shots, wasn't it?
it was very much the golf swing as well. I think it might have been a slower ball from Dupavel, and Willie's picked that up early and just deposited over deep mid-wicket there. That's his strength. Anything down the ground across to square leg is his arc where he's looking to hit it. Teams can often go wide at him to try and take it out of his arc.
So does he go short here or does he go full? I'm going full.
It's a $1 million question in the power play. He's got 2 men out, square the wicket either side.
He's on his way in to bowl to Willie, who's on 8 now. It's a short one. It's pulled into the leg side. Now, it hasn't got the legs to get all the way to the boundary. Around the boundary, in fact, comes Pat Brown, who's out there, and hurls it back in. So they pick up 2. Willie moves to double figures. He's on 10, 47 for 1.
I think that's a good ploy to Willie as well. You've got to use your short ball at him. I think his strength is anything full or length straight, where he can bully it down the ground or slog it into the leg side. So I think you will see the seamers especially use the short ball at him. He's not as comfortable on the short ball, where he can just step forward and strike it when it's full or length, and then also take it out of his arc, bowl it wide so he can't hit it to where he wants to hit it. I think is the best way to go to him.
Well, he's on his way in again, Dupavel, on 2 balls of his 3rd over to go. It's been driven down the ground and caught by Cam Fletcher at mid-off. Willie's going nowhere. The umpires are going to consult each other here, and we have no replays, and Willie is going absolutely nowhere. Fletcher's convinced he's taken a clean catch. The 2 umpires, Neil Pratt and Neil Mallender, have a chat. And David Willey doesn't like the decision because he's just gestured to the pair of them as they have given him out, and Cam Fletcher takes the catch. Dupavel has his 2nd wicket, 47 for 2 in the final over of the power play.
Yeah, he does not look happy about that, but the Derbyshire fielders were convinced. There was no question from their perspective. Umpires seemed pretty convinced as well. Quick double check with each other and confirmed the decision of out.
You can imagine if this game had been on television, and let's face it, the TV company has abandoned the T20 Blast completely, that they would have been looking at that for about 15 minutes, and each time you look at it, it seems less and less of a catch, doesn't it? I don't know if you think that when you're watching, if you watch the T20 or watch any cricket on TV, the first one you think, well, it looks a clean catch. In real time, it's a clean catch. And then they slow it down. Well, has he got his finger? He might have one finger underneath it. Well, just either give it out or say not out.
Yeah, I think it's the foreshortening of the lens, I think they call it. It makes it look difficult frame by frame. But like you said, real time, it looks out. And the more you slow it down, the more you watch it, it makes it look worse than what it is, I think.
Foreshortening of the lens. I'm going to write that down.
Right.
I'm going to write that down, Woody. I like that. Here's Dupavel on bowling to Ravi Bopara, the new batter, in and bowls a short delivery, and it's gone over the head of Brooke Guest, the wicketkeeper. It's gone down to the boundary for 4 byes. It's a no ball as well, which is a real shame. And that means that Northamptonshire move on to 53 for 2, still with 1 ball of the power play left to bowl. I hate that. I hate that.
What, the bouncer first ball? Or?
No, I like the bouncer first ball. I hate the fact that it's a no ball. It's just, they've got to have something.
What would you rather it be a wide?
I just think it's
Or
perfect.
you're allowed to bowl
yeah,
it
you can bowl one
above the head.
Yeah, you can bowl one above the head. He can stick his bat
Oh,
up and
reach
try and
it
hit
above
it.
his
Come
head.
on, he's only short,
Only
isn't he?
90 miles an hour, Fletch.
Just do paddle on it in again. That's a fuller delivery, and it's off an edge out towards backward point. That's going to run away to the boundary, I think. Oh, no, Aaron Donald is chasing it and gets there. Brilliant work from an Aaron Donald. Hooks it back as well. It's thrown in by Pat Brown, and he keeps them down to 2. He saved a couple of runs there excellently in the end of the power play. But Parra is off the mark with a couple, and at the end of the power play, 55 for 2 Northamptonshire. Who'll be pleased most with that power play then?
I think after the start, you've got to say Northamptonshire. Derbyshire could have very easily kept that down to 45 for 2, and then it would have been their power play, I think. But I think 55 for 2, pretty even, but I think Northampton will be the happier of the two teams after the first 6 overs. Especially with Bretska still in on 32 off 15 and Papara coming out now.
17 runs off the over, and here is Samet. Made his Derbyshire T20 debut down at Wantage Road as skipper. Wasn't quite able to get them across the line on that occasion. I've just seen a replay. What are you saying, Woody? You saying clean catch? It looks clean to me.
Not the best view, but looks good to me.
Oh, it's good enough. Yeah, good catch. Well done, Cam.
Kiwis as well, very good blokes.
I'm totally honest.
So I don't think Cam Fletcher would claim it like that if it wasn't out.
And I don't know a dishonest Fletcher. First ball of the Samet Patel over is pushed out into the offside by Britska for a single. So we now have the 2 oldest men currently playing T20 cricket anywhere in the world, I fancy, apart from perhaps the Oman team, who all look like old men, certainly yesterday when they were playing England. Samet Patel bowling to Ravi Bopara at the county ground in Derby, would you believe? And that one is just pushed straight back to Samet by Bopara. And it remains 56 for 2. Samet's only 39, you know. It's remarkable. He bowls, and that one is a slightly quicker ball. It's driven down the ground by Bopara. This is how he batted for much of his innings down at Wantage Road, just picking up the singles, keeping the scoreboard ticking over.
Yeah, he's an experienced player, isn't he? He knows he can take his time and build an innings. He's the kind of player who can make up for it and catch up at the end.
He's played over 1,000 games of senior cricket, professional cricket, over 1,000 games. I don't know where he gets his appetite from, if I'm entirely honest with you. 57 for 2, stop it, as this one is wide of the off stump, and he was reaching for that one, Britska, and as a result pushed it straight to Wayne Madsen at extra cover. And he comes again. Samet Britska takes a step into the leg side and then drives it to Madsen this time. Madsen loses it momentarily, but lightning quick, cat-like reflexes. Turns around and picks the ball up. Good over so far from Samet. 2 runs from it. 57 for 2. Into bowl to Britska on 33, and he drives out into the offside. For the first time this evening, I think I'm going to mention Ross Whiteley's name as part of the fielding side. 3 runs off the over, a single there off the final ball. 58 for 2 off 7. Really good over from Samet. First one outside the power play. And who's coming on now? It's going to be Mitch Wagstaff. Big moment for Mitch.
It is, yeah, it'll be a tough ask now coming on. Bowling at Bretska, he's well set, he's scoring well. And Bopara, obviously an experienced player, he's probably the main man for Northants.
He bowled just the 1 over last week from memory against Notts. And it was a relatively expensive one, wasn't it? Yeah, I'm just looking at it on 1 over for 11. And that's why Ross Whiteley ended up bowling. He ended up bowling 4 overs in the end, Ross Whiteley, for his 3-wicket haul. Here he goes then, Britska on strike. In comes Wagstaff, and
It's a lovely start.
he lands that one nicely. Always good for a leggy to land the first one. It was just guided down the third man where Zach Chappell is fielding on the edge of the 30-yard circle.
Especially with the ball being a bit wet, he's got his towel in his back pocket there, so he'll use that to get the ball nice and dry, just rubbing his hand in the footmark to keep it dry as well.
Confident young man though. Picked up 2 wickets in his first over, bowling in first-class cricket up at Headingley. And it's over his head, that one, driven by Bopara. Just caught it on the half volley and lifted it over Mitch Wagstaff's head, down very straight down the ground towards us. It was fielded by an Aaron Donald. Bopara moves to 4, 60 for 2. It's getting gloomy, but of course the lights are shining was going to say brightly, that would be lying, as that one is pushed by Britska.
Lovely first 3 balls, this.
Yeah, up to Donald. If he gets out, if he goes at a run of ball, he'd be happy, wouldn't he?
100%, yeah.
Chris Cole's pouring over the rain radar to our left. I don't like the look of that. I don't like the look of him looking at the rain radar, really. But we all do it. Here it is. Oh, that's a flatter, straighter ball. Flatter, quicker ball. That's what I was trying to say. Pushed into the leg side, and because the fielders on the boundary, they get back for 2 as Ross Whiteley eventually gets in and does the fielding. Bapara moves on to 6, 63 for 2. 2 balls of Wagstaff's over to go. 5 runs conceded so far. Really good start for the young man. He also got a half century up at Scarborough in that game when he picked up 2 wickets in his first over. Bowls, and this one has been lifted down the ground. He hasn't really connected with it. And Aaron Donald moves around the boundary to do the fielding on the slide, throws the ball in, single taken. Bapara moves to 7, 64 for 2. I think Britska is going to target this delivery.
Good over. Yeah, this is the one where Waggy needs to get out of this over. Bowl your best ball. Try and get hit for a 1, out to your sweepers, get out the over with very little damage would be excellent.
Bowls, that one is swept, and it is going to be a single because Wayne Madson's out there on the sweep.
Great start. Great start.
Britska moves to 37, and it's 65 for 2 at the end of 8 overs. So just 7 runs off that over. He'd settle for an economy rate of 7 after 4 overs, I imagine.
Snap your hand off for it, Fletch.
Sammett's going to continue. Fielders and Aaron Donald and
a little sprinkling of rain just starting, Fletch.
Stop it. Stop it. We've got to talk if it rains. I mean, we've got to talk if it doesn't rain, but at least there's something to talk about. Was that on the rain radar, Chris? Yeah. A little bit. Woody's going to consult his. I'll have a look at mine in a minute. Here's Samet, in and bowls to Britska, who just pushes this out into the offside. David Lloyd runs past the ball. It goes out to Ross Whiteley. They're going to come back for the second. He throws it towards Samet Patel's end. And they do get over this. Raining quite heavily now. Yeah. Even I can see it now.
That's it, we're going as well.
Yeah, and that's it. We are going off. 67 for 2. The rain coming at 7:36, which is a real shame. The scoreboard immediately switches off, which is of no use to anybody whatsoever. 67 for 2 with Britska on 39, Bapara on 7. And of course, we have half an hour's leeway, so we won't lose any overs in the first half hour that they're off. The ground staff are
7 minutes past 8 until we start losing overs, I think.
I'm sure you're right. I'm not very good at the clock either. Are you sure? Yeah. Well, I'll take your word for it. Half an hour from now, anyway.
7:37 now on that clock.
Oh, okay. Was it? Oh, yes. There is a clock on there. That's the one I should have gone with, isn't it?
8:07.
Yeah. So.
Lose overs.
Well done, Woody. The covers are being brought on. Ravi Bapara on 7. Britska on 39. 67 for 2. A couple of wickets for Darren Dupavalon, who's bowled really nicely. 3 overs, 1 maiden, 2 for 23. Zach Chappell's bowled a couple of overs for 15. Pat Brown bowled his 1 over for 13. Was a little unlucky. Had a catch. Ricardo Vasconcelos dropped by Samit Patel during that over. Mitch Wagstaff 1 over for 7, and Samit has bowled 1 over of his second over. 1 ball of his second over, I beg your pardon, has gone for 5 runs. So 8.1 overs of the Northamptonshire innings have been bowled. And a slight interruption, and hopefully a brief interruption, Chris, for rain.
Yeah, let me give you some respite there, Fledge. Yeah, I think as it'll go, hopefully, as quickly as it arrives, based on a quick glance at the rain radar, as mentioned. You're never quite sure how reliable they are in weather conditions like this, where the rain comes and the rain goes, but it is looking brighter in the direction from which the clouds are coming. And you can always get an idea, Tom, can't you? Because you look at body language, and the body language of the umpires are still on the square. So there's your first indication. And the ground staff don't look particularly perturbed about getting the outer covers on. So the signs are this is going to be brief.
Yeah, I think you're right. The players, it was never really heavy rain. It started very, very softly, got a little bit heavier, and the umpires decided to take them off. But like you said, the umpires are still out on the square talking to Neil Godrich, the head groundsman, looking away over the hotel. and hopefully it's not going to be a long delay.
Yeah.
It does look like it's almost stopped now.
The problem is they take them off when it's raining a bit, and if it doesn't stop completely, they never start
Yeah.
again until it has stopped completely. There are 1 or 2 umbrellas up over in the grandstand away to our left-hand side, 1 or 2 in the permanent temporary stand at the far end of the ground as well, but people aren't exactly running for shelter, are they? They're still milling around. So
I think if it had stayed at this intensity, we'd still be out there, wouldn't we? It was only that that brief, very sudden downpour, and off everyone went. 67 for 2, Tom. How do you think Derbyshire will assess that start, considering they won the toss and elected to field first?
Yeah, I think they've done well. I think it could have been better though. I think there's been a few little sloppy bits in the field where they've misfielded ones for 4. De Pavlon's bowled a couple of no balls, one's gone for 4 byes over the keeper's head. It's little things like that add up for 5-10 runs in 8 overs. If that scoreboard says 55 for 2 instead of 67 for 2, Derbyshire are well in front of the game. But right now I think it's very evenly poised, with Bretska in batting well, 39 off 23 balls, and Bopara's just getting himself in and building innings. And while ever Bretska's going well, there's no pressure on Bopara to score. With someone as dangerous as him, you'd like to try and put him under pressure from the start, try and keep his runs down as low as possible and force him into a mistake early on, rather than him being able to settle into the innings, set himself up to be able to kick on in the back end where he's most dangerous. So I think, it's very evenly poised now. I think that's exactly what Mickey will be saying in the changing room now. As and when we do come out, if they can nip one of these out early doors, then it's game on, advantage Derbyshire. If not, they come on and they carry on this partnership. Bopara gets himself in more, Bretska carries on the way he's going, then it's going to be a tough finish for Derbyshire for this innings, and they'll be on the front foot.
they bat a long way down, don't they, Northampton? George Bartlett, who doesn't bowl, is due to come in at number 8. So they have plenty of batting, Northampton. Having said that, so do Derbyshire. Zach Chappell due to come in at 8. Mitch Wagstaff down on the card at 9, and he's an opening bat in red ball cricket. So there is plenty of batting in both sides. But you're right. I think Bretska sort of holds the key here. 39 off 23, hit 5 fours and a 6. A strike rate of 170 or thereabouts is pretty good going.
Definitely.
Given that the first over, I know he didn't face any of the first over. They just that tractor noise is them running a rope around the outfield.
Classic.
Absolutely, we always love to see it. We've no idea what it does, but we love to see it. So yeah, if they can get rid of one of these two, I think Woody's right. Get rid of one of these two. Sikander Raza in next. Safe Zabe, who didn't play in the first match. Lewis McManus, the wicketkeeper, who can bat a bit, and then George Bartlett after that. Ben Sanderson will come out and swing the bat, no question. I'm not sure about the last two. In the same way that I'm not sure about Derbyshire's last two, Freddie Heldrick and Rafi Weatherall, both fine bowlers, but I'm not sure with the bat.
Talking of bowlers, Tom, it is very rare in T20 cricket you glance over a set of bowling figures and see a 1 in the M column. Darren de Pavillon right off the bat, or not off the bat as it was, because it was a maiden. And those figures, bowling first up in the power play, 3 overs, 1 maiden, 2 for 23. I don't know, but I doubt he's had as good an opening spell as that.
Yeah, it's that first over was obviously brilliant. To not go for any runs, you're just giving yourself a massive advantage at the start of the game. You've got 20 overs, the opposition have got 19, and he's obviously picked up the wickets as well. I think he will be a little bit annoyed at himself for the last 2 overs. If the first one's a maiden, he's bowled 2 overs of 23.
Yeah.
But that, like you said, he's bowled three in the power play. It's difficult. There's only 2 men out. A couple of misfields. He's had the no ball over the keeper's head. But yeah, good start for him.
Yeah, and we've mentioned Mitch Wagstaff before. He, in fact, when he made his debut at Edgbaston in Blastoff, a lot of talk about how he would handle that. He strikes me as someone who is embracing all of this responsibility. We know for spinners and leg spinners in particular, such a dangerous format to ply your trade, because as we know, you're a few bad balls away from being pummeled for 20-30 odd.
Yeah, you are. Especially similarly to how Fletch mentioned earlier, he's a confident lad. and looks like he's embracing all aspects of T20 cricket. And to come on in the stage where he has, where the ball's wet, it's difficult for everybody, but especially a leg spinner who's only young, who's not had much experience. That first over only going for 7 against Bretska, who was in and firing, and Ravi Vapara, who's a brilliant player. To bowl 1 over for 7 in those conditions is absolutely perfect. He couldn't have done much more.
Well, you'd like to think that we are going to be resuming soon, because the umpires have remained exactly where they were, right in the middle of the square pretty much. I think it has stopped raining. The umbrellas seem to have been taken down, and
Tractors coming back out.
So I
Take the covers off.
This is it. So hopefully we will be back underway very, very soon. What's going on right now? I know rain. We spoke about rain delays before we started, but in this period now where you know you're going to be back out, what's going on in the dressing room?
Yeah, similarly to before, there looks like there's quite a few Derbyshire players stood out on the balcony ready to get back out there. Some players will sit down and have a breather. There'll be people talking. I'm sure Mickey will be involved talking to certain individuals, discussing plans, what's going to happen next, areas of improvement, a few little catch-ups, but yeah, individuals will all handle it differently. I think most of them are making the way out now, which is a good sign. Covers coming off.
And the covers are being slowly trundled off.
I've got some numbers on most maiden overs in T20 Blast, or the T20 Cup. Azam Mahmood, 6 maidens, along with Yasser Arafat, David Masters, Graham Napier down at Essex, and Dimitri Mascarenhas as well. The players with Derbyshire connections, and these needn't necessarily have been for Derbyshire. Wahab Riaz has bowled 2 maidens in the Blast. He had a season here at Derbyshire. Tim Grunewald has bowled 3, but of course not all his cricket was played at Derbyshire. Dominic Cork has bowled 4. Now, Dominic Cork played in the first T20 match that was played in this country 21 years ago today for Derbyshire at Headingley. He's had 4 maidens in the Blast, but they're still reasonably rare. The list that I've got in front of me includes just, if I can get to the bottom of it, now 96 players who bowled at least 1 maiden over in the T20 competition. It goes all the way back. Peter Martin has bowled 2. I mean, he retired in 1873, the Lancastrian who played for England as well. Dean Cosker's got 1. Good evening, Dean, if you're watching.
Dernbach's got 1. He had a few games here.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure he didn't get 1 when he was here. Stephen Mullaney's got 1. That's not a surprise. He would have just bored the batsman to death. But yeah, so it's a fairly select group. There are fewer than 100.
Excellent.
Yes.
That's filled a very short rain delay very nicely. Thank you. All yours.
Samir Patel to continue his second over from the City end, bowling to Britska, who drives out into the offside straight to Wayne Matson. Of course, the batters have got to start again.
Yeah, it's always difficult as a batter, especially for Bretska, who started off so well, to have a little break. You always want to just get back into the game again. No one's going to come out and smack the first ball for 6 after a rain delay. So it can play into the fielder's hands just to sneak a few balls, maybe an over through, while the batsmen are just settling in again.
He looped that one, and Britska drove it out towards the cover boundary where it was fielded by Ross Whiteley. Single taken, Papara on strike now. He slaps that just to the right of Wayne Manson at extra cover for 4 runs. But a yard to the right of Wayne Manson, but it was hit very, very hard indeed. And even, as I called him earlier, the cat-like Wayne Manson couldn't react to that. And as a result, out towards the demolition stand, and 4 runs to Papara. He moves to 11, 72 for 2. We're in the 9th.
Yeah, he just backed away there and gave himself a little bit of room and just flat batted that past Wayne Madsen for 4, long off out there, and had no chance.
72 for 2. On his way in again is Samit from the City end. That one is driven nicely again past Wayne Madsen out towards Fletcher out there on the boundary.
Yeah.
At long off. His sunglasses perched atop his Derbyshire cap. I don't think he'll require them any further this evening. But always best to have them, as Woody told me earlier. Here is Savitt again, into bowl to Britska, wide of the off stump, cut away, out towards Ross Whiteley for a single. Oh, they thought about taking on the Ross Whiteley arm. That would have been interesting. They decided against it. Single taken, 74 for 2, so 9 runs off that one. 9 overs gone. Run rate somewhere around 8 1/4. And Pat Brown is back from the racecourse end. Do you think this is a direct result of the rain delay to bring Pat Brown back on? Or they don't want to allow young Wagstaff to bowl successive overs and let a batsman get settled against him?
Potentially, yeah. I think he's going to have to bowl a couple of overs back to back with only 5 bowlers being used. If they seem reluctant to use Ross Whiteley, so he's going to have to bowl. Still going to have to bowl 3 more overs. But I think with Pat having 3 overs left, and this is being a very important partnership, I think they've brought him back as a wicket taker to try and break the partnership.
Breetzke 41 from 26 on strike at the moment. Partnership worth 27. Brown bowls driven. Breetzke drives out into the offside, where Mitch Wagstaff finds himself fielding unusually. Throws the ball back in. Single take, and Breetzke moves to 42.75 for 2, approaching the halfway point. Derbyshire, remember, on Sunday had got to 3 figures by the halfway point and then sort of fell in a big heap in the end. Didn't get enough runs and lost relatively comfortably. They're definitely in this contest. 75 for 2. Brown on his way in, bowls to Bopara, who just guides a slower delivery down towards third man. I'm going to guess at Nyron Donald. No, I'm not, because he's down below us.
To Pavlon.
Thank you. How can you tell from this distance?
Well, I know most of the lads.
And you didn't know him?
Yeah.
See, I know them all, and I still couldn't work out who it was.
I know them all well enough to know how they move,
Yes,
and
well,
what
that's-
spikes they wear. And
Nah, I haven't quite got to that level of detail. 76 for 2. Brown bowls to Breetzke, who guides this into the offside. It goes beyond Lloyd, out towards Dupavalon. And they pick up another single. 77 for 2. Breetzke moves to 43. Decent start to the over from Pat Brown. 3 singles.
yeah, it's interesting to see how they play this over. Like we mentioned at the start of it, I think Pat Brown was being brought back into the attack at this stage to try and break this important partnership. Whether they're just playing it sensibly, getting through this over so they can attack the other bowlers, might be the plan.
10 wickets he's got so far this season, Pat Brown. That one's clipped by Bopara into the leg side. They're going to come back for the second. Whiteley picks up and they get back comfortably. Bopara moves to 15, 79 for 2.
Yeah, not very often you see people take 2 to Ross Whiteley.
No, I don't think I would have. Well, I clearly wouldn't have.
I think that might be an effect of the outfield being wet. They don't seem to be moving as quickly and as freely to the ball as usual. They might just be aware of slipping or misfielding the ball with it being wet and slippery.
That one's guided down into the offside, backward of square. Lloyd comes around to do the fielding. Yes, it's something that you don't often think about. Yes, the ball will get wet. And it will be tricky for the bowlers, but of course the fielders are desperate to keep their feet. Nobody wants to suffer an injury out there, so you've just got to tread a little carefully on the outfield. Men outside the circle are down at long leg and on the mid-wicket boundary, and then at point cover and long off for Pat Brown, who's bowling to Bopara, who just defends that into the ground. Good finish to the over from Pat Brown. 5 runs only from it. 79 for 2 at the halfway stage, the Northamptonshire Steelbacks. And 2 good overs, 3 good overs, 4 good overs in a row there. So 10, 19, 24 runs off the last 4 overs. They'll be happy with that, Derbyshire.
Yeah, I think this will be a big over now. Mitch Wagstaff coming on at the City end. I think Northampton should just play that over. I know it's that change of tack. Wagstaff's taking his hat back from the umpire, and Sammett's coming instead.
I've already written it down.
Last minute change, Fletch. I think Sammett was talking to Wayne there, maybe asking him what he thinks. And they was going to go with Mitch Wagstaff, but they've changed their mind and gone back to Samit Patel. As I was saying, I reckon that over they would have targeted against Mitch. It'd be interesting to see if they do the same with Samit now.
Breetzke drives that first ball.
Samit is noticeably bowling very wide to Breetzke.
He is, isn't he? That was
He
a
does
long
not
way
want to
wide
get
of
straight
Austin.
and get it in his arc. He's bowling it very wide.
Got a man out on the mid-wicket boundary, man on the backward square leg boundary, and a long on as well as a long off, and somebody sweeping on the offside. Samit is into bowl to Bopara, who heaves it into the leg side for a single. It's fielded out there by Brown. Bopara moves to 16, 81 for 2 in the 11th. Still 4 balls of the 11th over to go. The sun is threatening to come out again. Remarkable. What an evening. Shadows are very, very long. It's watery sunshine, as you might imagine. A slightly quicker, flatter delivery from Samet, pushed up towards long on for a single. That is an Aaron Donald. And the Steelbacks move to 82 for 2. Barely time to draw breath in a Samet Patel over. He likes to get through them as quickly as possible. He's on his way in again now, in between the stumps and the umpire. That's driven down the ground, and that'll be a 1-bounce 4 out to the permanent temporary stand at the far end. Cam Fletcher, no chance, even though he was running around from long off. Samet looks a little bit frustrated out there by that shot, but it was a decent enough shot. 86 for 2. Bapara moves to 20 off 15.
Yeah, it's a little bit slower than the previous one by Samet, and he's just over pitched there. It was right in the slot for Bapara.
Took full advantage. He's in again, is Samet. Around the wicket, balls to Bapara. That's a wide. Nicely taken by Brooke Guest. It was a full toss as well when he took it, I'm fairly sure. So whether that slipped out of his hand, he is, as Woody said, trying to bowl wide to Breitska. Well, he tried to bowl wide to Bapara there. This time it's another full toss, and it's pushed straight to Wayne Madsen, who turns around after picking the ball up and throws it in. Samet has to get on his bike there and smiles at Brooke Guest. No run. It was a good piece of fielding by Madsen. So 1 ball of Samet Patel's 3rd over remains. He's conceded 20 runs so far in 2 overs and 5 balls. He's in and bowls to Bapara wide of the off stump. That'll be wide.
He's mixing it up, trying to bowl right on that wide line, take it out of the hitting arc, and then mixing it up with the odd one quicker and fuller at the stumps, I think.
This one is a little bit loopier. It's a full toss. It goes to Madsen, and the bounce, the spin, fools him. And they're going to come back for a second here as the ball is thrown in by Cam Fletcher. So 2 off the final ball of the over. Bapara moves to 22. 90 for 2. 11 runs off that over number 11. And Samet Patel has now bowled 3 of his 4 overs, and we are going to see Mitch Wagstaff come on from the racecourse end. He bowled from the racecourse end previously, conceded just 7 runs from his first over, which is a pretty decent effort, I would suggest.
I think if he bowls this one for 7, he'll have done extraordinarily well.
Yes, absolutely.
Bapara's just changed his bat as well.
He's got his hitting bat now, is he? Oh, good. At Lancashire, 162 all out in the 19th over against Leicestershire at Grace Road. Still raining in Somerset.
I think Wayne Madsen's struggling with his hand as well a little bit. He copped a couple of extra cover there off that previous Samet Patel over. He's out on the boundary. He seems to be in a bit of pain. That's well bowled.
First ball from Wagstaff is just clipped up towards long on. In off the boundary comes an Aaron Donald to do the fielding. And they are kept down to a single. Breitska moves to 46. Yorkshire 107 for 4 in the 13th over against Birmingham Bears. And Nottinghamshire need 43 off 32 to beat Worcestershire. They're 99 for 3 in the 15th over. Will they do it?
Something's happening here, Fletch.
Wagstaff bowls smashed out towards the extra cover boundary for 4 over the head of Samet Patel, who's inside the 30-yard circle, and in between Pat Brown and Cam Fletcher and the boundary. The first off Mitch Wagstaff this evening. 95 for 2. Bapara moves to 26 off 18. Big players.
I think he's coming at Waggy this over as well. I think he's identified this over as one he can try and target. I think he's going to keep coming at Waggy here.
Samet's moved back to the edge of the circle at extra cover now as Wagstaff is on his way in. Bowls. It's striking the pad there as he goes for the big swing into the leg side. Misses. Good ball in the end. That could have gone many a mile. Anybody in the car park behind the old scoreboard might have been heart in mouth for a moment there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a quicker ball coming soon.
He's in and bowls. It's another decent delivery that's out towards Ross Whiteley on the boundary, who takes the catch, and Bapara has gone, and Mitch Wagstaff takes a very, very big wicket, an important wicket. Bapara goes for 26. They're 95 for 3 now, Northants.
Yeah, he's done brilliantly well there, Mitch Wagstaff. He's held his nerve. Bapara definitely identified that over as one to target. Young leg spinner trying to get him under pressure. He's hit him for 4, second ball of the over, and he's continued to try and get him under pressure. But Mitch Wagstaff has held his nerve brilliantly there and got him caught out on the rope. It's a big wicket for Derbyshire. He's a dangerous player, Bapara, and he looked like he was just getting going.
Sikandar Raza is the new batter, the Zimbabwe skipper. Zimbabwe, of course, failing to qualify under Dave Houghton for the T20 World Cup. Who'd have thought? He had such a good second spell here.
Thank you, Fletch.
Well, I'm just saying. He was here a couple of weeks ago. Didn't come up and say hello. Unsurprisingly, I don't think he liked me. 95 for 3. I can't think why. Say what you see. That's my motto. Wagstaff then to Sikandar Raza. It does get you into trouble now and then, of course. And Wagstaff is in, and Sikandar Raza lets one down the leg side go, and it is signalled wide by Neil Malander. 2 test matches we discovered Neil Malander had played. There was a thought that he only played one, but he played a couple for England, of course. That one is a full delivery.
Quicker.
Yeah, it's quite quick. Almost medium pace. Clipped out to Wayne Madsen at square leg. So Sikandar Raza off the mark. 97 for 3. Anything that I say that you think is controversial, you want nothing to do with, Woody, you just ignore me, and I'll just plough on and get myself into deeper and deeper trouble. Here is Wagstaff bowls. That one is played off the back foot. A forced shot up towards long on, where Aniran Donald does the fielding. Britska moves to 47 at the end of the over. 98 for 3. So 8 runs off the over, but a decent over. 98 for 3. Picked up a wicket in that over as well. And we're just seeing that on the big screen now. It was a very good catch, actually, because he was very close to the rope, Ross Whiteley. Had to be aware of where that rope was aware of where the rope was. 98 for 3. And Samit's going to bowl himself out here. What sort of song is this? Got cigarette lighters being lit all around the ground. It's one of those boy band jobs, is it? Yeah, it sounds like one. Sounds like that. Well, it all sound the same. Won't be a download anyway. That's a short delivery from Samit that Britska pushes out into the offside. Slight misfield from Ross Whiteley. That's a rarity in itself. Britska moves to 40. Or was it Sikandar? Yeah, it was Britska, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The scoreboard has moved. Oh, it's stopped. What's going on here? They've got it the wrong way around, because it's Sikandar Raza on strike now. Come on, Jane, sort it out. Next door, when you're ready. 99, there we go. Britska on to 48. 99 for 3. It's a quick game for the scorers as well, though.
It is.
Samit bowls and Sikandar Raza drives past Wayne Madsen. Ross Whiteley slides around the boundary, parries it. They're going to come back for 2. Ball eventually returned by Cam Fletcher. Out in the deep in front of the demolition stand. 101 for 3. Raza moves on to 3. Just about underway in Germany now. Although it still says 8 o'clock start on my app in front of me, as that one is turned into the leg side by Raza for a single. 102 for 3. He moves on to 4, keeping a close eye on Notts. It would be probably good for Derbyshire if Notts won. They need 42 from the last 5 overs with 3 wickets down to beat Worcestershire. But it's raining at New Road. I have no idea what the Duckworth-Lewis situation is. I could find out, but it would take too long. In comes Samit bowls wide of the off stump. Britska reaching for it, goes under his bat and is nicely taken by Brooke Guest. Another one of those wide deliveries just inside the blue guideline, which don't really mean much anymore, because once the batter started moving, all bets are off. That one is clubbed down the ground. Britska and Raza almost run into each other halfway down the pitch, and they pick up another single. David Lloyd hares around to back up the throw from Cam Fletcher, but Samit picked it up. 103 for 3. Zach Chappell warms up. He's got 2 overs left. 2 overs for 15 so far, his figures. Samit bowls wide of the off stump, not wide. And Raza left that one rather than having to go at it. 103 for 3 at the end of the over. That was a 5-run over. Another excellent effort from Samit Patel, who finishes with 28 runs from his 4 overs. He'd have liked a wicket or 2, but to have kept it down to 28 runs, he'd be pleased.
Yeah, he's very consistent performer, Samit Patel. He very rarely goes for more than 30 in his 4 overs. Disappointed not to get a wicket, but he's done a great job there, going for 28 or 48 off 4 overs. And Mitch Wagstaff coming on again at the racecourse end.
What a dreadful song. 103 for 3. All the good stuff he did Wagstaff bowls driven for 4. That's a glorious shot by Breetzker out towards the extra cover boundary. Again, Samet is inside, a long way inside the 30-yard circle. Hands on his hips, and has a word with Mitch Wagstaff. It was just a good shot, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a good shot. He's used his feet and he smashed it over extra cover for 4.
So it is now underway.
Ross Whiteley warming up, having a stretch
That's
out on the
what we
deep
like,
mid-wicket boundary.
That's what we like to see.
So back on the edge as well now.
Wagstaff full of delivery down the leg side. That'll be signalled wide, I think, by Neil Malander. It is. It was not taken cleanly by Brooke Guest. Almost a suggestion from the look on Guest's face, as much as I can see of it. There might have been a little touch off a pad, but either way, it was given as a wide. That one is clipped into the leg side by Breetzker. They've run 1. Are they going to risk coming back for the second? They're not going to take Wayne Matson's arm on. I might have thought about it. 109 for 3. No, come on, Woody, don't laugh at me. That's one of the first things to go, isn't it? The arm. As Wagstaff bowls. That's been launched into the leg side. There's no chance for Ross Whiteley on this occasion as it clears the boundary for 6. Raza moves into double figures. He's on to 10. 115 for 3. That was a big shot. There's 65-metre boundaries. We learnt that last week, and I think it's pretty much the same as it was last week. So he's hit that about 68, 69 metres to land over the boundary, close to the photographer down there, who isn't David Griffin. 115 for 3. Wagstaff is in. That one is
it's a better length, that.
Pushed up towards long off. Cam Fletcher, who's going from long off to long off, and Aaron Donald going from long on to long on. He does the fielding, the Kiwi. 116 for 3. 2 balls of the Wagstaff over to go. Might be the last 2 balls he bowls if Ross Whiteley is called into action. Here is Wagstaff again. Oh, driven straight back past him. Fletcher runs around the boundary, does really well to get 2 hands on it and stop it. Saves a couple of runs there as well, as Wagstaff allows that one to go through to Brooke Guest. It was hit very hard. If he had caught it,
would have been a worldie.
He would have had to have caught it well, if you know what I mean. Otherwise, there could have been damaged fingers involved. 118 for 3. Breetzker on to 56 off 38 deliveries.
I think it might be time for Chappell or Brown next over after this one.
Is heaved into the leg side, out towards Wayne Madsen. Fumbles the ball initially. 119 for 3 after 14 overs. 16 runs off that one, so a little bit expensive. Mitch Wagstaff now 3 overs, 1 for 31. He did get rid of the very dangerous Ravi Bopara, but that might be the first part of the evening's work done by Mitch Wagstaff. We haven't actually seen him bat this season, I don't think.
I think I've just seen Samet tell Ross he's bowling the next over at this end as he goes for a few warm-up bowls down at deep cover.
Pat Brown
now.
To bowl his 4th over. 2 overs for 18 so far. He's been hit for a 6 as well, hasn't he? In that, I'm fairly sure. I can't actually remember that. He might not have done.
I think it was Chappell who got hit for that 6.
Okay.
He's been hit for a couple of 4s though.
That's the one I was thinking of. He said 119 for 3. In comes Pat Brown, and this one's lifted in the air. Now then, has that got the... it's got the distance all right. It's landed just in front of the members' pavilion, beyond the gate and beyond the advertising boards, though. So unfortunately, Pat Brown has now been hit for a 6. It was a pretty good pickup as well from Breetzker, who moves to 63 off 40. This partnership already worth 30 off just 15 deliveries, 125 for 3.
Yeah, Raza's come out 11 off 6 as well. He's not taking his time, and Breetzker's carrying on his merry way.
There is Pat Brown again in to bowl to Breetzker. That one is at a bouncer. He tries to turn it into the leg side and gets it off the toe end of his bat, outside edge, down towards short third man for a single. 126 for 3. Breetzker moves to 64. Yorkshire with a little over 4 overs to go. 122 for 6 against Birmingham. 122 for 7 against Birmingham at Edgbaston. Still raining at New Road, where it will be getting dark, of course, and then there are no lights. This next delivery, a quicker one, is turned into the leg side by Raza. In off the boundary comes David Lloyd, picks up and throws in quickly. Keeps them down to a single. Raza moves to 12, 127 for 3. Sort of filling in where the weather's coming from as well. Chris Coles is going to consult his
hotel, over the travel lodge.
Consult his rain radar. Woody's having a look at his. I'll have a look at mine as well in a minute. We'll have a majority verdict. In comes Brown to bowl to Breitsker, who lifts this down the ground. It's in the air. It might be a catch here. No, it's going to fall in no man's land. It was always just going away from Cam Fletcher as he ran around from mid-off on the edge of the 30-yard circle. And Breitsker moves to 66, 129 for 3. Any verdicts on the rain, Woody?
Says possible light rain in 10 minutes, Fletch.
Lovely. I'm going to look at the rain radar and see what it says. Here comes Pat Brown, 129 for 3. He's in and bowls, and there's a swing and a miss from Breitsker. Slower ball bouncer. Oh, my rain radar's not looking great.
Not looking good.
No, it's not. It's not looking good at all. So I'll get rid of that. Don't want to see that. Thank you very much. We'll just take what we get. But it is starting to fill in. They're sort of over Donington. So good luck to anybody listening in at download. If you can hear us, that would be remarkable. Let us know if you are listening in from Castle Donington. 129 for 3. In comes Brown again. That one is a one-footed shot. Be careful. Out into the leg side for 4 runs to the left of the man at mid-wicket, who is Mitch Wagstaff, and the over comes to an end at 133 for 3. He hasn't had the best night of his bowling career. 14 runs off that one to 30 off the last 2 overs. It's a bit awkward. And look who's bowling now.
Ross Whiteley. Yeah. It's a very dismissive shot that from Breitsker. It's a sign of a man who's in and right at the top of his game. He's on the up, on the front foot. He's just swatted it on one leg, as you rightly said, Fletch, out towards the members' pavilion there. Ross Whiteley on for the racecourse end.
Good to see. Picked up 3 wickets last week in his 4 overs. Scotland have had 23% possession and yet to have a shot on target. Man in neither side's had a shot on target according to the stats in front of me. So you're better off watching and listening to the cricket than the Euro 24 opener. I think it probably would have been anyway. Here is Whiteley then. Around the wicket, bowling a full delivery. It turns into a full toss. Nice piece of fielding on the edge of the 30-yard circle. Actually, he's just let it go beyond him as David Lloyd, but he scrambles back and picks it up and keeps him down to a single. Raza moves on to 13. It's 134 for 3. We're in the 16th over. Cut off 8:30. So still plenty of time for Derbyshire to get the remaining overs in without penalty. Run rate currently at 8.8 runs an over. 134 for 3. Whiteley bowls. Oh, and he almost plays that straight back to him. It sort of stopped in the pitch almost and hit quite high up on the splice of the bat, and for a moment looked like it might be a return catch for Whiteley.
Yeah, he does mix his pace up really well, Ross, in the overs he's bowled. That first one looked like a slower ball wide, and that one, slower ball into the deck a little bit, just seemed to deceive Breitsker a little bit, which is a good effort on 70 not out.
Not off. He's in again and bowls that one straight up in the air, straight towards us. It's going for 6. It's gone over the head of Cam Fletcher down below us. It didn't quite have the legs to hit the sight screen immediately below us. Whiteley's got a smile on his face. He's just been hit for 6 though, and it's 140 for 3. Breitsker moves to 76 off 46 deliveries. As Neil Mallander asks to have a look at the ball. They're still going at Birmingham, which is good news. 124 for 8 Yorkshire. They're not back on at New Road. That game's had it. Germany have just taken the lead against Scotland as well in the Euros. As Whiteley around the wicket bowls, that's driven beautifully. Backward of square for 4 runs by Breitsker, who moves to 80. That was a glorious shot. It was there to play the shot, but you still got to do it. That was really, really nice. Florian Wirtz with the goal, incidentally, for the hosts at the European Championships.
I think Ross Whiteley's trying to carry on what Samit Patel was doing to Breitsker, trying to take it out of his arc, bowl it wide. He's gone for wide Yorker. He just fractionally missed it, and it's a brilliant shot. He's gone wide again, slower ball.
One's come off an edge down to third man. They take a single.
It's definitely a ploy to Breitsker to try and take it out of his hitting arc, bowl it as close to that wide line as you can, and make it make him do something other than his strength, which is to stand and strike it down the ground and into the leg side.
Clearly working, because he's only got 81 off 48. 145 for 3 as Raza waits. Whiteley bowls to him and he drives up to Samit Patel. They're going to go through for a single as well. It was a well-taken single to Samit Patel. The over comes to an end. 146 for 3, so 13 off. 3 double-figure overs in a row. 43 runs off the last 3 overs. They're going to have a strong finish here in the last 4 overs, Derbyshire. And Zach Chappell will bowl 2 of them, and he'll bowl them both, I imagine. He might not, from the City end. He's certainly going to bowl the next one from the City end.
Yeah, it'll be Chappell to bowl 2, De Pavillon 1 and Brown 1 in these last 4 overs. And like you said, it'll be a big 4 overs in the context of this game. Brett's set on 81. They need to get him out sharpish. If he stays until the end, he'll look to take Northampton up to 200 and beyond.
Here comes Chappell then, in and bowls, and that one is cracked away. Backward and square on the offside for 4 runs by Raza. He moves to 18. Was there again outside the off stump to be hit. He was a little bit too short. And Raza took full advantage. I've just looked up the Duckworth-Lewis par score in the Notts Outlaws game. Notts 100 for 3. They need 42 off 30 balls to win, but it's raining at New Road. And on Duckworth-Lewis Stern, 99. So Notts are in line to win their first game of the season if they don't get back on at New Road. Here comes, yeah, absolutely. Short delivery, pulled into the leg side. It's going to drop short of the fielders out there. Almost bounces over David Lloyd's head. He's not the tallest, but almost went over him. He was at full stretch with his right hand to make sure that it didn't move on to the boundary rope. Now De Pavillon comes in at short, fine leg. Good luck.
Mid off goes back. I think they realise that Bretzker's probably not the kind of player who's going to stand there and scoop it over the keeper, over fine leg. So they're bringing him up and putting long off back.
Here comes Chappell in and bowls wide of the off stump. He took a step into the leg side initially, did Breetzker, and as a result couldn't reach the ball by the time it had arrived at the crease.
Yeah, it's good bowling from Chappell, that. Watching him hard, he backed away, and instead of following him like a lot of bowlers do, he's gone wide, and ultimately when the batter backs away and you hit the wide line, he can't reach it, which was exactly what happened there.
Absolutely. Excellent bowling from Chappell. Here he comes, he's in and bowls to Breetzker. That one's
quick.
Just tucking him up a little bit as he turns it into the leg side, possibly off his bat handle. And he goes through for a single, moves to 82, 152 for 3. The run rate 9.1, so heading towards 180. They'll want more. Derbyshire will be desperate to keep them below that 180 mark, which is sort of the new 160, isn't it? 180. Apparently. Here is Chappell bowls. That one's lifted into the leg side. De Pavillon's there. Oh, and tips it over the bar and for 6. Couldn't quite take the catch. He's standing about a yard in from the rope, so he couldn't really have gone much further back. Possibly should have taken it, though, out there in the deep. He's still down on one knee. He'll be disappointed he didn't catch it, I think. But yeah, it was a tough one.
They are tough when you're on the boundary. Like you said, it's difficult to judge where that boundary is. He was jumping, hands outstretched above his head. But he did look like he got a good hand on it, but just couldn't quite hang on. Ended up just parrying it over the bar for 6.
158 for 3. Raz 125 now. Has got one off an edge down to third man for 4 runs. Zach Chappell stands with his hands on his head. He can't quite believe his misfortune, but it's another boundary. 10 off the last 2 deliveries, a 6 and a 4, and at the end of that over, the 17th, Northamptonshire are 162 for 3, going along at 9.5 and over. Zach Chappell 3 overs for 31, and off that one, 16.
Yep, De Pavillon comes on now. The big 3 are going to close out this game. De Pavillon from the racecourse end, they could really do with breaking this partnership. Bretzker's batting beautifully on 82 off 50 balls, and Secunda Raza's come in and played an absolute blinder. He's not took any time to get going at all. He's 29 from 13 balls and really pushing Northampton on to get up towards 200. If Derbyshire don't break this partnership, they will get above 200, I'd imagine, if these 2 stay in.
Secunda Raza at 223 strike rate. Breetzker even more impressive, really. 164 his strike rate, 82 off 50, 162 for 3. Darren Dupavalon to bowl his final over of the evening from the racecourse end. He's in, and that one is driven for 4 runs to the left of mid-off, who is Mitch Wagstaff. Another really nice shot. Breachka moves on to 86, 166 for 3 now.
And they've just changed the field as well. Like we mentioned last over for Bretzka, when Chappell was bowling, he brought his fine leg up and put long off back, because they recognise Bretzka's not the kind of batter who's going to stand there and flip it over short fine leg. He's more someone who's going to stand there and strike it. But for some reason they've gone the opposite way. This first ball of Dupavalon's over with fine leg back, mid-off up, and he's crunched that past mid-off for 4, and that's prompted the same field change.
There comes Dupavalon again, bowls to Breachka, full toss, turning to the leg side, 1 bounce 4 out towards the covers. It was to the left of an Aaron Donald. Gets all the way to the boundary, so back-to-back boundaries to start.
Oh
this.
No, free hit.
Is it a no ball? It's a no ball for above waist height, presumably, which seems a little harsh on first glance. 176 then, is it?
I think that might have been because Samet was outside of the ring. I don't think that was on height.
I didn't think it was above. It was certainly a full toss.
I think Neil Mallander's just signalled to Samet Patel that he was actually outside of the ring when that ball was bowled.
That's careless.
He doesn't seem very happy with it.
Careless in the extreme. 172 for 3. Breachka on 90 off 52 now.
I don't
Partnership.
want to be bowling a free hit at a bloke on 90.
No. Partnership 77 off 34. And Dupavalon goes in and bowls to Breachka, who smashes it out towards wide, long off for 4 runs. So he's not quite taken full toll of that free hit, but he's done pretty well with another boundary. His 11th 4 to go along with 3 6s. He moves to 94. And Northamptonshire are 176 for 3. This is a Derbyshire side that historically, and I say historically because it hasn't had the same players clearly as it has now, and the players with the experience, but historically doesn't chase 200.
Yeah, it's always a big ass chasing 200 in any sort of T20 game. It's a lot to ask. Everything has to go perfectly. And I think the Pavlon's under pressure here. He's bowled, 2 legitimate balls, 1 no ball. He's gone for 3 boundaries. He's right under pressure now.
It's 14 off 2 effectively.
He's gone to his main weapon as a Yorker, the one before, and bowled a full toss. Does he go again? He does.
And he's bowled him. He has. He's bowled Breachka for 94. He gets his revenge belatedly, it has to be said. What an innings that has been from Breachka, the South African Matthew Breachka. He's hit 11 4s and 3 6s, strike rate in excess of 170. But Dupavalon strikes 176 for 4 now, Northamptonshire.
Yeah, that's great work from Dupavalon. He's held his nerve there. He's under pressure, going for 3 boundaries in a row. He's already attempted his Yorker. He's got it wrong, bowled a full toss and gone for 4. But he's held his nerve, he's backed his skill, and he's executed a perfect Yorker there to get rid of Bretzka for 96, and 94, apologies. And what an innings it was.
Yeah, he's getting a good hand as he leaves the field, and I think Samet will be very pleased to hear somebody getting a good hand from the opposition as they leave the field, because he doesn't want that. He wants silence. You don't always get what you want, though. 176 for 4. 2-0 Germany now.
Safe Zabin now. Another small left-hander, but he's someone who is incredibly initiative with his batting. He's got all the funky shots, all the flicks, all the scoops, and he strikes it clean as well. First ball, he smashed the full toss out to Ross Whiteley at deep cover.
Carry on. No, you're right. No, I've got nothing to do now. That's exactly what he did. I should analyse the delivery, but I'm not good enough to do that. 177 for 4. Jamal Musiala with the second goal for Germany, who are heading towards victory, you would have thought, over Scotland in the opening game of the Euros. Just ask Chris, just confirm, who pulled Germany out of Chris pulled Germany out of the office sweepstake for me and pulled Serbia out for himself. I think I might have had a bit of skullduggery involved there. Here comes Dupavalon, bowls lifted nicely by Sikander Raza. Out over third man for 4. And the Dupavalon over continues to be a curate's egg of an over. We've had a wicket, we've had a no ball, and a free hit that went for 4. We've got 3 boundaries now and a single. 3 for 42.
4 boundaries now.
1, 2, 3, 4 boundaries. Yes, yes, you're right.
I think that must just have been a misexecution there. He's probably tried to go short and at him, but he's just offered up a little bit too much width, and Sikander Raza's just guided that over, almost Wayne Madsen-esque, over third man for 4.
Here comes Dupapillon again. Ball's full delivery.
Goes back to his weapon.
He's pushed out into the offside where Samit Patel does the fielding the over.
He is not happy with himself. Dupapillon has just slapped his thigh.
182 for 4. 20 runs off the over in total. 2 overs to go. 182 for 4. 200 certainly on the cards.
Absolutely.
For Northamptonshire. Now double check and see what's happening. It's still not been abandoned at New Road, but it must be getting very dark there by now, you would have thought. Yorkshire 143 for 9 with 1 over to go against Birmingham at Edgbaston. Pat Brown coming on to bowl as you hear in the background. Leicestershire 33 for 1 in the 7th over, replying to Lancashire's 162 all out. So you're up to date with what's happening in the North Group. I won't say any more scores, otherwise Chris will have nothing to say in the 10-minute break between innings. Although we might be talking for some time. The rain, which was threatening, seems to be skirting around. Pat Brown begins a new over. That's lifted down the ground. Underneath it is an Aaron Donald, and he takes the catch. And Sikander Raza goes for 34 off 16 deliveries. It's been a really good innings from him now. Straightforward catch in the end. Pat Brown picks up his 11th wicket of the campaign, and Northamptonshire are 182 for 5.
Yeah, that's a great innings from Sikander Raza to come in at 5 when he did, and he didn't take any time to settle in or get his innings going. He was right at the races from the get-go. 34 balls off 16 is in the middle overs is a brilliant effort. And Lewis McManus, now the keeper for Northants, comes out to try and finish this innings off with safe save. It's a good thing for Derbyshire. They've got 2 new batters in with 2 overs to go. It is a lot more difficult for people coming in and striking it straight away with little time, rather than having someone who is set and in being able to take advantage of the last 2 overs. So hopefully Derbyshire can finish this inning strongly, pick up a couple more wickets, keep them under 200 and take a little bit of momentum into their batting innings.
Nottinghamshire have won their first game of the season in the T20 Blast. The game has finished at New Road. They've won by 1 run under the Duckworth-Lewis-Stern method. Here is Pat Brown into the new batter, Lewis McManus. I'd in fact imagine one of the worst bowlers you could possibly face coming in with, 10 balls to go, 11 balls to go, would be Pat Brown, because he has so many variations. You've absolutely no idea what he's going to bowl, and he disguises it really well.
Yeah, that's spot on. He can hit you on the foot with a fast Yorker, he can hit you on the head with a fast bouncer, he can deceive you with multiple slow balls, and it's very difficult to pick them up when you're set, let alone when you're first coming in, and there's that bumper.
Tries to
really hit him on the head.
He tries to whip it away into the leg side, but got nowhere near it. So what a start to the Pat Brown over. This has been wicket ...
Pat Brown's running back to his marker. He might be a little bit scared about the cut-off time. It looks like they've got 3 minutes.
They should be all right, shouldn't they?
I think one of the plans to Lewis McManus over the years was to try and make him hit it square. He's very strong down the ground. I think the Alex Hughes, the analyst, is very keen on making him hit it off his chest almost, bang it in at him. Don't let him have any 3 hits down the ground, nothing in his half.
Turned that one into the leg side out towards Mitch Wagstaff for a single, but he didn't make a particularly clean connection with it. We now have 2 batters out there who between them have faced 4 deliveries at 183 for 5, so Derbyshire will be desperately hoping they can keep this score below 200. As Brown, with 2 balls of his spell to go, 1 for 33, his figures at the moment. He's on his way in to bowl to Saif Zaib, who a little early this year was playing for Norfolk in a T20 competition. I noticed this one is driven down the ground. That's a decent looking shot. It might go all the way for 4. It does go all the way for 4. Over an Aaron Donald and out to the boundary, just to the offside of straight. But a good shot. He looked like he was always going to play it.
Yeah, it's a different field than you would normally see at this stage of the innings. We've got third man and fine leg back, mid on and mid off up, and that's purely because Saif Zaib is very innovative with his batting. He looks to ramp, he looks to scoop, I think he's stronger doing that than he is
But he
standing and
might be out
striking it down the
here. He
ground.
might be out here. That's a great. Oh, it's not a great diving catch. I thought it was a
Great effort.
magnificent diving catch out there in the deep. Is that Fletcher?
Ross.
It's Ross Whiteley. Couldn't quite take it in. He dived full length. He's got a big smile on his face. It went straight up in the air, really, out towards the mid-wicket boundary. Zabe moves on to 7 with a couple there. 189 for 5, so just 7 runs off that over, the penultimate over of the innings, and Zach Chappell to close things out here for Derbyshire. 3 overs for 31 so far. You'll be hoping not to go for double figures and keep it below 200.
Yeah, I think if anyone was going to catch, here we are, replay on the screen, if anyone was going to catch that, it would have been Ross Whiteley, and it's just started spitting again here at Derby with 1 over to go. The umpires have just had a quick chat, but looks like we're going to carry on and try and see this over out. Neil Godrich and his ground staff are out by the covers on the tractor ready to get them on.
That's not a good sign, is it,
Not a
really?
good sign.
Not a good sign. Here's Zach Chappell then from the racecourse end in and bowls to McManus, who launches him down the ground. It's going to be dropped short of Cam Fletcher. I don't think he saw that initially, because he can't have done, because he would have been far further in from the boundary by the time the ball actually hit the deck. They go through for a single. McManus. Zabe moves. Yeah, it was McManus who hit that, wasn't it? Yeah, it moves on to 4, 190. Did they get 2?
Yep.
Blimey, I
back
didn't
on
get
strike.
2 there.
Hung up in the air for a long time. He didn't quite strike it. Only just came out the 30-yard
Yeah,
circle.
it was bowled him. He went into the offside, tried to flick it away into the leg. Zach Chappell picks up a wicket, and there's no confusion in my mind about that one. 191 for 6 now as McManus goes. Can they keep them below 200? Will it make any difference if this rain arrives? We shall find out over the next 2 hours of talking.
Yeah, McManus has got down on one knee there. He's looked to try and sweep Zach Chappell there, and he's just missed it, and it's clipped the top of leg stump perfectly. It's George Bartlett coming out now for Northampton. He can strike a clean ball.
He can.
Not got many balls left, but see what he can do with 4 balls remaining.
Hopefully not too much. 191 for 6. I want to prevent any boundaries here if they possibly can, Derbyshire. A couple of men out on the square boundary on the leg side. He has a swing and a miss. There's a roll at the stumps by Brooke Guest that misses by about 6-8 inches or so, and they scamper through for a bye. 192 for 6 with 3 deliveries of the innings remaining, but perhaps importantly for Northampton, just safe Zabe on strike for the first of those remaining 3. So Fletcher comes into the circle at mid-off. The man down at long leg has gone back, or fine leg. There is a long, deep backward square leg as well, and 2 other men on the leg side boundary as Chappell bowls, and that one is carved out into the offside, out to Ross Whiteley. Just has to be careful of that bounce, and is careful of the bounce. They only get a single. Zabe moves on to 8. 193 for 6 with 2 deliveries to go. They're not going to get to 200, surely.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. It may well be a record run chase against Northamptonshire. All those records via David Griffin will come at some point, I'm sure. As in goes Chappell again, bowls to Bartlett, who's bowled him leg stump. He tried the clever little reverse flick. It wasn't that clever in the end. George Bartlett goes, Zach Chappell goes. Zach Chappell picks up his 2nd wicket of the over. Bartlett out for a 2-ball duck, and Northamptonshire 193 for 7.
Yeah, it's a tough shot to try and play second ball of your innings, but 3rd man was up and he attempted it. Probably been better trying to stand still and strike it down the ground, but
So 4 runs off this over and 2 wickets, 1 ball to go. 7 runs off the previous over by Pat Brown. Without that De Pavlon over, which went for 20. It's not been a bad finish the last 2 overs for Derbyshire, has it? Because they were looking to go north of 200.
yeah, and leading up to that, the 18th, 17th, 16th, 15th, 14th over, they're all big overs, haven't they? Yeah.
Big overs, yeah, absolutely. So it's Ben Sanderson, the Yorkshireman. His first delivery, his last delivery as well, almost certainly. Chappell then, 193 for 7. He's in, bowls to Sanderson, who goes for the scoop, misses it. There's a throw down towards Zach Chappell. Sanderson is run out, and the run won't count because he's run out, and they finish on 193 for 8 as Ben Sanderson goes first ball, but not in the conventional way. He is run out for naught, and the not-out batsman, Saif Zaib, finishes on 8. Northamptonshire 193 for 7, thanks largely to Matt Breetzker's 94, 26 from Ravi Bopara, 34 from Sikandar Raza. Nobody else really scored too many, and the umpires are asking for the pitch to be covered as the ground staff come on away to our right-hand side with the covers. 193 for 8 then, Derbyshire at the end of their innings. Derbyshire will need 194 or something, depending on when we get back.
Or something. Fletch, thank you. I'd say rest that voice for 10 minutes or so, but it may well be longer than that because the rain is falling, the covers are coming on, although the worst of the weather, it does look like it's just skirting around us, so there is hope maybe that this shower, just like the first interruption, will be brief and we can get back going and Derbyshire can start what will be quite a sizable run chase, 194 to win. Will they have their full complement of 20 overs in which to get them does remain to be seen, but for now the pitch is being covered. The rain is falling ever so slightly, certainly nowhere near as intense as it was around 45 minutes ago. So we shall keep an eye on that, but when Derbyshire do resume, or when they start their innings, they'll be chasing 194 to win. Tom, what do you think Derbyshire's overriding emotion will be? I imagine, having won the toss, elected to field first, knowing there's a bit of weather about, they'll be pretty disappointed to have conceded 193.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think they maybe let them get 15, 20 more than what they probably should have done. A few little misfields and a few mis-executions, but they've not quite got their skills right, especially leading up in that middle overs towards the back end. Overs 13 to 18 were all sizable overs. I think they made it a little bit too easy for someone like Sikandar Raza to come in and get going straight away. They didn't really look to apply much pressure to him from the get-go, and Bretzker played very well and put the foot down at the right time and managed to take Northamptonshire up to what's a very, very good score here at Derby. Yeah,
undoubtedly, Matthew Bretzker, South African star of the show, 94 from 54, 11 fours, 3 sixes. You could see visibly the disappointment that he fell 6 short of what would have been a very fine century. And you're right, you look at that, Ravi Bopara going at 95 for 3 in the 12th over, you're thinking, well, there's a good opportunity to limit Northants. You've got rid of David Willey and Ravi Bopara, 2 of the bigger scorers, if you like, in the order, and yet Sikandar Raza, who can play, of course, 34 from 16, really did anchor that innings well for Northants.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he played brilliantly. I think whenever you have big partnerships like that, I think it was roughly around 70 off 30 odd balls in the middle overs especially. It can be really difficult to drag games back from there. They can often get away from you in the middle overs. Teams talking about being able to take wickets throughout the game, and as we've spoken about before, and we say it every game, the best way to slow the runs down is to continue to take wickets and not allow partnerships to build. There looked to be a couple of wickets up top, and then there was the Bopara, the Bretzker partnership, and then Bretzker and Sikandar Raza partnership pretty much up until the end, and then there was obviously a flurry of wickets at the end. But that period in the middle overs where Bretzker, Bopara and then Sikandar Raza was able to play and score runs freely, might have just taken this game a little bit further away from Derbyshire than they would have initially hoped.
And I guess the difficulty now with weather around is that the score may well be revised, and Derbyshire right from the off will think we need to get ahead of that DLS rate as quickly as possible. And of course, as soon as you start playing that game, it can get very tricky.
100%, but that's the benefit of batting second in these rain-shortened games. At least you know exactly what you need to get. You know the situation at hand. You know that it could potentially get shortened even more, and you can prepare for that and you can play accordingly. So it is an advantage to be able to bat second whenever there's rain around. if it does get shortened, like it looks like it's just starting to rain a little bit heavier here.
Yeah.
If it does get shortened, it just means you don't have to be as good for as long, and therefore you can play with a few more risks to try and get that run rate up above DLS.
Yeah, the rain has just increased ever so slightly in intensity, but the Northants bowlers are going through their warm-ups just to the left of the pitch that we're playing on, and the covers are still on the pitch. However, none of the extra covers are coming on to cover the rest of the square, which is hopeful, and hopeful that the ground staff are aware that maybe the shower will pass quite quickly, but the rain is certainly coming down, and we absolutely won't start in this weather. Although the Northants fielders and bowlers going through their warm-up is a promising sign. A quick word on the bowlers. It's interesting, you look down the figures and no one really suffered badly, but they all went for sizable runs, especially the paceman, Darren de Pavillon, very decent figures of 3 for 43, one maiden in that, so really that's 3 for 43 from 3. I suppose, as you mentioned at the interval, the first rain break that we had, having seen his first over gone for none, to then concede 43 from 3 overs will be a source of disappointment, but 3 wickets.
Yeah, of course, and that's just the way T20 cricket can go. Every ball's an event, things can change quickly. One over, you've bowled a maiden, you're on top of the world. The next over, you've been hit for 20. That's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. It can happen. I think he did just miss his execution a few times, but that can happen. Players are not robots. And it's difficult conditions with a wet ball. Especially if you're trying to bowl Yorkers, which is his main weapon, to try and get that ball in at the batter's feet for a York when you've got a wet ball, it can be challenging. And as we said, it's just the way T20 cricket goes. But looks to have, apart from Samit Patel, who's ever Mr. Consistent, very rarely goes for more than 30 runs in his 4 overs. Everyone else has got pretty much the same treatment, really.
I think Samit, I don't think I've seen any other figures than 4 overs. 28. It's always about 28, isn't it?
20 odd, yeah.
It is always that. I mean, it's a surprise when he doesn't take a wicket, but yeah, 4 overs, none for 28. Zach Chappell 2 for 34 from his 4. Pat Brown 1 for 39. Mitch Wagstaff 1 for 31 from 3, and at the solitary every Ross widely over, none for 13. It's as always with these things, you wait to see how Derbyshire can respond, and you wait to see how they go about the run chase, Fletch, because as opposed to last week where Derbyshire was setting the target, they have a target to chase, and it'll be probably a revised total of some description.
Wickets in hand, of course, become important because losing wickets hammers you on. Douglas Lewis Stern, of course. We wait to see. I don't think we're quite in that territory yet, but if it continues to rain, and there are still umbrellas up, aren't there, out there? So I imagine
brighter, though, doesn't it?
It does a little bit. Yeah, it looks okay away where the weather's coming from. When you're right, that horrible stuff that looked like it was heading straight for us seems to have skirted by. Just a quick one on the maiden.
Yes.
I missed the tweet. If I'd have seen the tweet, I'd have been laughing because it's the first maiden over by a Derbyshire bowler since 2022. That was Mark Watt, I believe.
Ah.
Yeah, and the first at Derby since 2019. It's the 17th in Derbyshire history, and David Griffin thinks I've seen most of them, so I'm hugely ashamed to say that I couldn't remember any. And apologies to Mark Watt, who won't be listening because he's in the World Cup with Scotland at the moment. In fact, if he's not playing, which they're not, he'll be watching the football.
That's it.
Mark Watt will be watching the football.
Huge.
You might have turned
with
it
an
off.
alcoholic beverage in his hand.
You might have turned it off by now. 2-0 Germany, 5 minutes to go until half-time. Germany were awarded a penalty as well, incidentally, about 10 minutes ago, but it was overturned by VAR.
Quite right.
It was a free kick given rather than a penalty. It was just outside the box.
He's a huge Hearts fan, isn't he? Which is why he wears 51 on his back to commemorate Hearts' 5-1 win over Hibs in the Scottish Cup final a few years ago. Yeah.
Very good.
Because
Well,
he came back to Derbyshire once. Sorry, we've got time, haven't we?
we have, yeah.
He came back to Derbyshire a few years ago and was given the number 50 shirt. I don't know if you remember that. I think it was in a one-day cup, and he was wearing the number 50. And I said, "What's going on?" He said, "I have no idea." Everybody knows he wears 50 when he wears it for Scotland. He wore it for Derbyshire. Presumably, he wore it. He wears it everywhere he goes. He's absolutely hammering it down
is
now,
now,
incidentally, as the Northamptonshire bowlers warm up. But yeah, to commemorate Hearts' 5-1 win. Imagine the Hibs supporting Scotland cricket fans
Yes.
must be really pleased every time they see Mark Watt come on to bowl. And there was that outrageous one that you pointed out to me. I hadn't seen it when he bowled one of his
against Oman,
24-yarders. And the batter just stepped away. He's out.
Twice he did it.
Yeah, he did it twice in a row, didn't he?
Yeah, did it twice in a row.
And you could hear him shout, you can't do that. Of course you can do it, as long as he bowls it in front of the umpire, which Mark Watt always asks the umpire to step a little bit further back so he can do it. Outrageous.
The umpire bottled it a bit there. I think he saw the batter move away and then just thought, it's going to dead ball this and see what happens. But yeah, I think it was legitimate.
Paul.
Yeah.
They won anyway, though.
They did.
They won anyway.
They did, absolutely.
And a very good tournament if they can beat Australia, which will be remarkable. I don't think they will. I don't think they will beat Australia.
Well, if they get them on, where are they playing? If they get them on one of them ropey pitches in America,
New York, is it? No.
They've finished in New York.
Yeah,
I think that stadium's already been taken down.
Yes. That pitch never to be seen again.
It was made of Lego, wasn't it? And,
it was.
Yeah.
USA, I erroneously said USA missed the chance to qualify for the Super 8s, but they did qualify courtesy of that no result against Ireland. So the USA are through. But presumably now playing all of their knockout games in the West Indies rather than in the US now.
I think some are in the south, aren't they? Fort Lauderdale's only just started having matches, so there could be a few there. But of course, where they are at the moment, where it constantly rains.
Yes.
And it's worse in Fort Lauderdale than it is in England, for goodness sake. And
that's saying something.
Yes, I'll say it is really quite heavy now. The rain out there. No sign of the big covers coming on, which is always a good thing. But I don't think at this stage of a T20 you would necessarily bring the full covers on. Who will this benefit, Tom? Do you think? If you haven't already discussed this. Would it benefit Derbyshire in the fact that the ball is going to be it doesn't matter how many ropes they run around the outfield, it is going to be very wet out there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, definitely. A big part of Northamptonshire's bowling attack is spin with Freddie Hildrick and Sikandar Raza. They will find it difficult to grip the ball, there's no two ways about it. The outfield will be wet. It'll be interesting to see if Neil runs a rope around it for them, with Derbyshire batting second. But also, additionally, with this rain just covering the pitch a little bit, it can just help the ball to skid on a little bit, which is generally better for the batters, for the ball to skid on. That can often happen when the ball gets a little bit wet, when the surface gets a little bit greasy on top. It can become quite nice to bat on. And then additionally, we've got the added advantage of batting second with DLS and knowing exactly what we require at all times.
If they get back out before the cut-off and it's still initially 20 overs, those first 6 are going to be crucial, aren't they? They need to really go as hard as they possibly can without losing wickets, as we've already mentioned, to get ahead of that Duckworth-Lewis rate.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. We speak about it every game. The power play is generally really important. If they can get up past 55 with no more than 2 wickets, I think they'll be happy with that. Like you said before, wickets have a big impact on DLS, so it's important not to be reckless. I think looking at the last game and even the game before, and Aaron Donald's not going to shy away. He's going to come out and be aggressive regardless. So that obviously opportunity for them to get above the rate, and he's going to play the way he plays.
And I've always wondered this, and granted we don't know what at the moment the target clearly is 194 until we hear otherwise. But when DLS takes effect, is someone in there poring over all the figures, or are you looking at the scoreboard like we all are and going, okay, DLS is now 23. I presume there is someone who has all of these numbers.
And it will be on the big scoreboard that Derbyshire now have, that we have a small screen of in here. The scoreboard to our right-hand side has Duckworth-Lewis for every ball, so the batters will be aware of where they need to be at all times. They've just got to glance at the scoreboard.
I presume that's all they do. So beforehand, for instance, there is not someone there going, oh, by the way, it's going to be this after 2 overs if you don't score this number.
Generally there'll be a printout of every scenario possible, so they'll be listed with like overs 5.1,
you should
and
see
then
them
with wickets lost, and it'll be in on a table with like an x-axis and a y-axis, and it'll tell you exactly where you need to be depending on how many overs, how many balls have gone, and how many wickets have been lost. So that will be circulating, but like Fretch rightly said, it will be displayed on the scoreboard as well.
Yeah.
The laser display screen, as they say on...
I'm sorry, I have a clue. Being displayed now on the laser display screen.
With a mystery voice.
Mystery voice, absolutely. It's not going well for Scotland, who are now down to 10 men and are just about to face a Kai Havertz penalty to make it Germany 3, Scotland nil. That's not the return to European major tournaments that Scotland were hoping for. Here at the county ground, the rain is still falling. Havertz has scored that penalty. It's now 3-0 to the hosts against Scotland. The rain looks like it is easing, and the rather ugly thick grey cloud that was ominously coming our way does seem to have skirted around, and dare I say it, it looks a little bit brighter beyond. Fletch, just remind us of the timings here. If you talking of numbers and figures and facts.
Yeah, the latest we can get back on, I'm not sure it is 9:28. It'll be another 15 minutes after that, remarkably. The cut-off effectively is 10:15, so 5 overs back from 10:15 is probably about 5 to 10, something like it's 5 and 2/3.
20 minutes, isn't it?
It's 3 and 2/3 minutes per over, or something along those lines that they allow. So we could be talking for another hour before they eventually abandon the game, if that's what they do. But it looks like
it's stopped.
They are running the rope around the outfield, and they're just sort of knocking the water off the top of the strips on the square either side of the strip we're playing on, with that big squeegee that they used earlier to get rid of the water from the covers. So I think Neil and his team are preparing to get us back underway. Once the umpires come out, we'll know that we'll be back in full swing, and then we will find out whether it's a reduced match game. I'm not sure whether we will have lost half an hour. I couldn't tell you exactly.
I think we'll be okay as of yet.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. And who knows, Duckworth-Lewis might be Derbyshire's best way of winning this game. If they go hard in the power play and they get up to 50, 60 in the power play, get ahead, and then it hammers it down, they may well go on to win this game, because I think that 194 is a very stiff target indeed.
Yeah, it is. I think one of the benefits of Duckworth-Lewis, as well, as we mentioned before, is if it does get reduced, you don't have to be as good for as long. So it's easy. You can be brilliant for 10 overs and win, rather than having to be really good for 20 overs.
Yeah.
So it's always a benefit to the batting side, because you don't need to be as consistent for as long.
And if the DLS score, which looks likely to be obviously quite high, given Northants' effort, how many tweaks, would you tweak anything in terms of the batting? Or I know Aaron Donald and David Lloyd put on 114 in 10 overs, so presumably you would still open with them, but then maybe, Cam Fletcher came in at 6 or 7 last week.
Yeah.
Fletcher. So you probably think you want your hard hitters higher up, would you?
Yeah, I think depending on how much it gets reduced, as we stand at the minute, I'd expect things to stay the same, but batting orders can change depending on the situation of the game. I think if Derbyshire get to, for example, in a normal game, 17 overs for no loss, I'd expect Ross to come out at 3 ahead of anybody. Or if there's multiple spinners on, I think Wayne might come out, or it all depends on the conditions, the situation of the game, how many overs are left. But yeah, if it is a shortened game, you can expect to see the likes of Wayne Madsen bumped up to 3, Samit Patel up, Ross Whiteley up, to try and make the use of the shortened game for sure.
Well, I think the rain, I say it looks like it stopped, but looking out, there are still a few umbrellas up, but it doesn't seem to be falling with any great intensity, and even now we can see pockets of blue sky appearing above. Still no sign of the umpires. A couple of the Northants fielders and bowlers are walking around the periphery of the boundary rope. It's always, and again, Tom, you're very well placed to call this, it always feels frustrating that the umpires are not there. It just feels that there's a lot of time in cricket wasted by just waiting around for something. It feels like we could have play quite soon, but it takes 5 minutes for the umpires to stroll out very slowly. It takes another 10 minutes for the pitch to be inspected. It always feels that this process could be hurried up a little bit.
Yeah.
As players, do you get frustrated at that at all?
Yeah, of course, but I think additionally for players, it can be very frustrating if things happen far too quickly, which can be the case. Obviously, it's an entertainment product at the end of the day. There's fans here. They don't want to sit and wait they want the game to get on with the game as soon as possible. But ultimately, it's the umpire's responsibility to be fair to both teams and give them both a chance to at least get their composure and get themselves sorted, ready to go. So it is a fine balance with it being an entertainment product. You want to give the fans the best entertainment on the night you can, but ultimately you don't want to take away from the game by rushing the players and getting them out too quick.
No, very, very fair enough. Elsewhere then, rain is having an impact on a couple of the other matches down In the South Group, Middlesex 113 for 8, just about to complete the 17th over as the covers are removed here at the county ground. So it's been a pretty tough going for Middlesex. And down at Taunton, well, they've not restarted since the rain came about an hour and a half ago. Somerset 11 without loss after just 1 over. So, in fact, play is due to restart there at 2 minutes past 9 at local time. Local time. In Taunton, they've got a time difference down there. And it looks like it's going to be a 5 over a side slog down at Taunton, of which Somerset will resume on 11 without loss with 4 overs to get as many as they possibly can. At Edgbaston, York's 145 all out, and Birmingham Bears in response at 24 for 2.
I hate to interrupt, Chris.
Oh, go on.
Well, the umpires have come out, but not in their, not with their hats on. If they don't have their hats on, you can't start if an umpire doesn't have his hat on.
So what does that mean?
It means they're going to say to Neil Godrich, we'll start at. They've got a sheet of paper, or Neil Mallender has a sheet of paper in his hand, which is always ominous when an umpire has a sheet of paper in his hand, which rather suggests that he does have a Duckworth-Lewis sheet. Don't like the look of that at all. And Derbyshire, incidentally, only 18 times have they scored 194 or more. That's in their history. Twice against Northamptonshire, across the high score. 231 for 4 against Leicestershire. Somebody got a century in that game. I can't remember exactly who it was. And when they scored 211 against Northamptonshire, which is their high score, there was also a century in that. Callum MacLeod scoring it down at Wantage Road. So somebody's going to have to go big. Back to the scores.
Back to the scores. Well, I've lost where I was.
I have no idea. I was listening, but I mean, it was excellent.
This is what's known as filling time as we wait for the rain to stop and the players to appear. Birmingham, 32 for 2 in the 5th over, chasing 146 to beat Yorkshire. Notts did beat Worcestershire, as Fletch said, during the Northants innings by the DLS. They won by a run. Well, I think the 99 was the DLS score at the time, and they were on 100 for 3, so they
We're going to restart at 9:05, incidentally.
Okay.
I'll get some more information momentarily.
That's reasonable. So 10 minutes, and presumably that's going to be the full 20 overs as it stands.
19 overs.
19 overs.
Yeah, of course it's not. Which means there will be DLS involved, and I have no idea what.
Okay.
I'll try and find that out for you. In fact, I'll go and seek that out now.
One over less. It'll be interesting to see how many runs they take.
As long as they don't take off the Dupapillon first over, we're all right.
Take off that one that went for 20, we'll be laughing.
Well, 187 has just appeared on the scoreboard, and that feels right, doesn't it? That feels just about. Well, obviously, is absolutely right.
It'll save me a trip anyway.
There you go. So 187 needed from 19 when we get going in.
I think that's harder than
9 minutes time.
193 off 20, isn't it? I think I'd rather chase 193 off 20 than 187 off 19. Yeah. That's 6 runs off 1 over.
Yeah.
Stevens confirmed 187.
People want it to come down a lot more than that and have less overs, or just stay as it is, I think.
I'm going to work
in
it
a game
out.
where you're going at 9.5 and over in the run rate, and they lose 1 over, and it's 6 runs off.
I see a point.
9.8 is the required rate, whereas 194 was 9.7. You're absolutely right, Woody. You've done it again. Maths. You're good at maths, aren't you? You're good at maths. What's going on here?
I got a B in my GCSEs.
Yeah.
Only a B.
Long time ago.
With maths like that.
Long time ago. How old?
Was it even GCSEs when you did it, Frank?
No, I did O-levels. I did that, yeah. All right.
So once again, to satisfy my inquiring mind when it comes to facts and figures and numbers, will there be someone in there looking at the weather forecast now? Because if they had the full 19 overs to chase 187, that's a far different chase to say we need to be at this point after 5 overs. So will they be looking and saying it might rain in 25 minutes time and therefore we need to be at this point after 6 overs, say?
Potentially. I think it's always dangerous to start looking ahead too much and try and predict things that might happen or might not happen. I think as it stands right now, Derbyshire just need to concentrate on the 19 overs and getting 187 runs. And if it starts to rain and you come off, and then it gets reduced again, that's when you can start looking and thinking, right, maybe we need to be ahead at this point. And Duckworth-Lewis on the scoreboard is a great indicator to roughly where you need to try and be. And if it looks like it's going to rain, you'll often see teams have a big push to try and get ahead of that before it does rain. The opposition might slow things down so they don't get as many balls to try and get up. So it does bring a lot of different factors and nuances into the game. But hopefully, I think Derbyshire will just be concentrating on the 19 overs as it is now.
Yeah, fair enough. Glancing at the rain radar, which I know has been a little bit futile this evening, but it does look like there is a gap. The rain does look like it's coming.
Come on, the rain.
But there could be enough of a gap to get at, well, the 5 overs required to make up a match. And then it's just a question of where we are when it comes to DLS. Couple of other scores to wrap up what's going on elsewhere. Leicestershire 105 for 4, chasing 163 to beat Lancashire. So that's 58 needed in 29, so they need to get going some with 5 overs or so to go. And in the South Group, Surrey 125 for 3, chasing 171 to beat Gloucestershire, so Surrey need 46 from 31 with still 7 wickets in hand. Here at the county ground, preparation still ongoing on the pitch, roller going up and down. The supporters that had flooded out of the permanent temporary stand opposite us to find some cover and get some refreshment are slowly returning, and those in the East Midlands demolition stand, of course, under cover. And we could be in here, Fletch, for some excitement, because clearly Derbyshire are going to have to go some. It doesn't matter whether they're chasing 187 from 19 or need to be at 50 odd for no wicket after 5. There's going to be some excitement.
I've got some more information for
good.
you as well, which is fascinating.
Yes.
The power play has been reduced to 5 overs and 4 balls. So we've lost 2 balls of power play because of the reduction to 19 overs aside, which makes it just a little bit more difficult. So the idea of batting first because Duckworth Lewis might work in your favour clearly hasn't worked in Derbyshire's favour. I think you're right, absolutely right, Tom. It hasn't worked in their favour in this one, but they've sort of got to go for it. They can't really afford to be 2 and 4. They'd much rather be 3 and 3 going into the game against Birmingham on Sunday. We felt that they probably had to win these 2 matches at home and possibly try to get a result at Trent Bridge against a very out of sorts Nottinghamshire Outlaws side a week tonight before the break for the county championship matches. So to lose this one and to lose 2 games to Northamptonshire, who were always going to be one of the teams they'd be battling for, the 3rd and 4th place, if you like. It's going to make it a lot tougher. The umpires are on their way back out, though. The Derbyshire openers look like they're ready, don't they, Tom?
Yeah, ready to go. Lloydie just having a few stretches, getting himself going, and Iron running over the boundary line, playing a few straight drives. He'll be up and about, ready to try and repeat his heroics at Headingley. We might need him to get off to a fast start here today in the 5.4 over power play. Thought you was going to tell me they've reduced it to 5 overs then. I was about to go and kick off.
No, 5 overs and 4 balls. It was a terrific effort by Nye at Headingley, wasn't it? A 19-ball half century. Something along those lines certainly wouldn't go amiss here in the second half of this match, or however long the second half lasts. So a reminder, 187 from 19 overs with 5 overs and 4 balls as Mark Watt.
Hands a man.
On the scoreboard. On the big screen that is the scoreboard away to our right hand side, and the good thing is the Duckworth Lewis Stern par scores are all the way along the bottom of the scoreboard, which means that we will be able to keep you bang up to date with whether Derbyshire are in front, behind, or indeed level on Duckworth Lewis Stern. It will be a Duckworth Lewis Stern outcome no matter what, because it has been reduced to a 19-over second innings, and David Willey is going to bowl the first over of the Derbyshire innings from the City end. He's going to be bowling to David Lloyd. Freddie Heldrick down below us looks like he might be bowling in the power play as well. I'm not sure he will.
I'm not sure he will either.
No.
Not the second over either.
No, I think he can calm down on the warming up down below us. Been a good 12, 13 minutes for Scotland, because it's half time in Munich. They haven't managed to concede another goal or indeed get anybody else sent off in the Euro 24 opener, but they trail 3-0. Not the start that Steve Clarke and his team would have wanted. Here we go then. Derbyshire 187 to win. David Willey in and bowls to David Lloyd, who pulls that into the leg side. They're going to get at least 1 here. There is a fielder running around the boundary now, and Donald is back for the second very quickly. And Derbyshire ahead on Duckworth Lewis. They're 2 without loss
The other good thing about that rain is one of David Willey's strengths in the power play is being able to swing the ball. With that ball just being hit out to deep mid-wicket first ball, hopefully it's wet and it will no longer swing.
He's got a man out on the mid-wicket boundary and a man at long leg. He's almost deep backward square leg as the way he's moved around. So slip in place as well as Willey is in and bowls. That one is defended by Lloyd. Straight back to the former England man. And it's a dot ball, second delivery of the Derbyshire innings. It's a good job they've got this new scoreboard, because the old scoreboard didn't have any kind of information about Duckworth Lewis or adjusted targets and that kind of thing. So it makes it slightly trickier for the batters, but they will be able to work out exactly what's going on out there as we continue to look to the skies, as well as Willey bowls to Lloyd, who turns this one down towards long leg for a single. Lloyd runs the first one really quickly, but he's not going to get a second run. Rafi Weatherall, I didn't realise he liked to be called Rafi. I called him Raphael all the way through the first match. I've never come across him before. I think he's in England under 19, isn't he? Decent bowler.
Well, similar to you, Fletcher, I don't think I've come across him before.
Yeah, that was the first time I'd ever come across him, but he's been a regular in the Steelback side in the T20 competition. Obviously very highly rated. He's fielding at short, fine leg on the edge of the 30-yard circle at the moment, and here's Nye Donald facing his first delivery. He's only faced one previous delivery on this ground in T20 cricket for Derbyshire, and he goes on the back foot, forces it out into the offside. Ravi Bopara does the fielding, and there's no run. 3 without loss after 4 deliveries, I beg your pardon. Derbyshire now behind on Duckworth Lewis. I'm not going to prattle on about it.
It doesn't really matter until 5 overs.
No, you're right. You're absolutely. I'll shut up.
Leave them to it for 5 overs.
Yeah.
And then we'll get on the case.
Required rate 10 and over, which is pretty much what it was at the start. 3 without loss. Willie turns at the top of his mark at the City end and comes in and bowls to Donald, who plays and misses at that one outside the off stump. Ball goes through to Lewis McManus, who is got the gloves on. So the other wicket-keeper in the side, Ricardo Vasconcelos, is fielding at first slip. Glancing at the scoreboard over his right shoulder. Umbrellas, I'm delighted to say, all down at the moment. But even with the lights on, it's a fairly gloomy scene here at Derby. 3 without loss, Derbyshire. As the final ball of the first over is about to be bowled by Willie, and Nye Donald just pushes it into the ground. Willie collects it on the bounce. 3 runs off the first over. Derbyshire 3 without loss after 1. Chasing 187 to win. This will be Pat Sanderson, won't it?
Ben Sanderson.
Ben Sanderson. Who's Pat Sanderson then?
Mix of Pat Brown and Ben Sanderson. He'd be a good bowler, isn't he?
Wouldn't he just? Who's Pat? I'm sure there's a Pat Sanderson out there somewhere. I was so pleased that I got the right person. I got his name wrong.
There you go. Chris has just googled
Chris has found Pat Sanderson.
Rugby player.
That's him. Yes. No idea.
Sale, Harlequins and Worcester.
Yeah.
15 years ago, Fletcher. You retired?
Well, I was around 15 years ago and a relatively old man even then. David Lloyd on strike then as Ben Sanderson is about to bowl his first delivery of the match. It's a pull into the leg side. He didn't really get hold of it. It was quite high up on the bat. He's thinking about coming back for the second, but decides against it. He picks up another single to move to 4 at a runner ball, and the Falcons are 4 without loss after 7 deliveries. Lots of pointing and field changes going on out there. Scotland in trouble because the second half has gone underway. They are much more comfortable in the changing rooms. 4 without loss. Sanderson in and bowls to Donald, who tries to flick that away down the leg side, and it's called a wide as he fails to catch up with the ball. Nicely taken by McManus, diving away to his left-hand side. 5 without loss after 7 deliveries. It's a kind of Raza just keeping his shoulders nice and loose. Can't imagine they'll go much pace off in the power play of 5 overs and 4 balls. As Sanderson is on his way in again. Bowls to Donald, who tries to lift that into the leg side. It strikes him amidships And they go through for a leg bye. 6 without loss. Lloyd very quick to call his fellow Welshman through.
He is, yeah. Not quite the ferocious start for Donald as it was at Headingley, not off 4, but he's giving it a good go. A couple of big shots there off Sanderson. He is someone who does tend to extract significant movement, even from the white ball at the start of an innings, so he can be quite difficult to get hold of.
Pat Sanderson used to do that as well. This one is cut away by David Lloyd for 4 runs, out towards the point boundary, and it goes into those very wet covers away to our left-hand side as well. The first boundary of the Derbyshire innings. Lloyd moves on to 8. They're 10 without loss.
Yeah, you can't afford to bowl that wide to someone like David Lloyd. He loves to sit back and cut and pull, and that's just too wide in the power play, and David Lloyd is not going to miss out on that.
Really, really nice shot. Leicestershire struggling now at Grace Road. They need 44 off 15 balls, and they're 8 down against Lancashire. 119 for 8. Looks as though Lancashire are going to maintain their really good start in the North Group as Sanderson is on his way into bowl to Lloyd. That one tucks him up. Don't know, it came off a thigh pad possibly.
I think it's nipped back and almost hit him on the glove or on the mid-drift.
It was unpleasant. It certainly discomforted him as the ball dribbled out towards short third man for a dot. 10 without loss after 10 deliveries. The Bears are 66 for 2. I have no idea what I've done there. What have I done? I'll have to, I think I've closed the page. That's bright, isn't it? Computers are really good if you can work them. Here is Sanderson in and bowls to Lloyd, who just taps it into the leg side. He fancies 2 here. He's not going to get 2 because it's going to be fielded by George Bartlett at mid-wicket. So he just settles for another single, moves to 9, 11 without loss. I was going to tell you about what was going to Birmingham, 66 for 2 in reply to Yorkshire's 145, so 80 off 67 balls at Edgbaston, and that could be a decent finish. That one in the North Group. Nottinghamshire, remember, already beaten Worcestershire earlier today by 1 run under the Duckworth Lewis Stern method. 11 without loss Derbyshire. Final ball of the second over. Sanderson is in and bowls to Donald, who just guides it down to short third man. It beats the short third man. There is another covering fielder coming around from the point boundary, and they scamper back for a second. 2 runs off the final ball, 10 runs off the over in total, 13 without loss after 2 overs Derbyshire. Neil Diamond, everybody.
Your favourite song?
Cannot abide. Well, no, you see, it's unfair. It's David Willey's going to bowl over number 3. It's a really good song. And he's a terrific singer. But my word, have I heard this enough now. It is a really good song. At least they haven't dipped the music for everyone to shout, so good, so good.
I'm not sure anyone here would be singing that.
No. 13 without loss. Here's David Willey from the City end, bowling to David Lloyd, who just guides that into the leg side. They go through for a quick single. Lloyd moves on to 10, 14 without loss. Remember, power play ends at 5 overs and 4 balls. We have a match when the Derbyshire innings reaches 5 overs. And at the moment, they're a couple behind where they really need to be. But that won't worry these two at all. Donald, 2 off 5 deliveries. That's what he was saying, very un-Donald-like.
Just means something is going to happen.
Here's Willie bowling. He's gone for the scoop, and he hasn't got all of it, and it drops just short of the fielder at short, fine leg.
There's the something.
Yeah, he got far too much on that. He looks a little bit disappointed with himself there, and Aaron Donald. He moves on to 3, 15 without loss, but...
Yeah, it looked perfect for that. Full toss is exactly where he would have wanted it. Just must maybe caught him on a glove or something. He got absolutely none of that.
Just looped, and I think it fooled the man at short fine leg as well, who was sort of on his heels to begin with. Here's Willie again bowling to David Lloyd, and Lloyd launches it down the ground. It's going to go over the fielder, just over the fielder. Sanderson at mid-off and run away towards the boundary. It won't reach the boundary. They're going to come back for a third. Lloyd gets on his bike and scampers back and gets back there nice and comfortably in the end. He moves on to 13, 18 without loss. But he didn't get all of that, David Lloyd, and just for a moment, Ben Sanderson was very interested indeed. Fortunately, it just dropped over him as he stuck out his hand to try and catch it one-handed. Would have been a terrific catch if he'd pouched it. He didn't. 18 without loss. Donald back on strike. Willie halfway through his second over. He's in and bowls, and Donald, 6. Blimey. That's been hit a long, long way. It's gone halfway up the permanent temporary stand at the far end of the ground. Willie turns around and looks at an iron Donald. Donald just taps the pitch. He's moved on to 9 off 7. 24 without loss. That was a decent hit.
That's a great strike from an iron. I do prefer it when he looks to stand still and strike the ball. He strikes it so clean, and he's popped that into halfway up the stand, as you said, and I think David really had a little bit of a word to him there as well.
Good. I don't know if he gets wound up or not. He doesn't seem like the kind of person who does get wound up, does he?
He probably just laugh.
He's waiting now. What's Willie's response going to be? He's in and he bowls and he strikes Donald as he tries to turn it into the leg side. Fields it himself.
Go at him here as
yeah,
well.
he's just having another quiet word with him there this time, making it look like he wasn't talking to him, but he almost certainly was. 24 without loss with 1 ball of the 3rd over to go. To show you how important wickets are, that Duckworth-Lewis would shoot up if they lost one of these two. They can't really afford to lose wickets in their pursuit of 187. There's another bit of rain in the horizon, away to our right in the far distance, sort of over download at the moment, as Willie is in, and that one is pulled into the leg side for 4 runs by Donald, fairly straight in between the man at mid-wicket and mid-on. I think he placed it there. I like to think he placed it there anyway, and he moves on to 13. And Derbyshire at the end of that over, a 28 without loss, a 15 run over, exactly what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, it's a brilliant shot from an iron. He's just back of a length, it's not short, and he's just short arm pulled it wide of mid-on for 4, and Willie looked like he had another little word with him there as well. I'm not quite sure what he could have been saying after being hit for a 6 and a 4, but
perhaps he's rattled.
Bowlers never been the brightest, have they?
No, I think you're probably right. I always prefer talking to batters, Woody, as you know. They have more of an influence on the game. 28 without loss, possibly. Here's Sanderson in and bowls to Lloyd. He gets an inside edge on that one. It runs away down to fine leg. McManus scampers after it from behind the stumps. He got away with one there, Lloyd. Moves to 14, 29 without loss.
Yeah, Ben Sanderson looks like he's really trying to tuck the batsman up there, just either angling it back in, getting it to move back in off the pitch. Just tucked David Lloyd up for room there, inside edge, down past the keeper. Managed to get a single.
Leicestershire on the brink of defeat. Well, they are going to lose. They need 28 off 2 balls. They're 135 for 9 against Lancashire at Grace Road. They'll be delighted they managed to get the full match in there. Here, Derbyshire 29 without loss. Donald waits, Sanderson bowls, and he launches it down the ground for 6. Out over the head of mid-on, who's up on the edge of the 30-yard circle. A second 6 from an Aaron Donald, who moves to 19 off 10. Derbyshire 35 without loss in the power play.
Yeah, it's a brilliant start from Derbyshire, from Lloyd and Donald in this power play. And Aaron at his best there, when he just stands still and strikes the ball back down the ground. He almost looks to do it with such ease. Do prefer it when he stands still and strikes it rather than gets a little bit too inventive sometimes.
Yeah, you can get too funky, can't you, as a batter, I think.
You can, especially when you're so good at just standing still and striking it. Just keep doing that.
Sanderson bowls, he strikes this one. He's clothed it a bit, but it's gone over the head of mid-on, and they're going to come back for 2 as it's eventually fielded by the man from mid-wicket running around the boundary down below as George Bartlett. So Donald moves to 21 off 11 deliveries. He didn't score off his first 3. 37 without loss. He's quickly got into his stride here, an iron.
Yeah, he never really hangs around long, does he? An iron. Plays his shots, gets on with it.
Well, caught on the boundary, the first ball he faced against the Outlaws last Friday, was hugely disappointed and promised somebody, don't worry, I'll score plenty in the next match, which is exactly what he did. And this time he makes room for himself.
Yeah.
There's 6 more.
Yep.
Out towards long off this time. Just took a step into the leg side, struck it beautifully, moves to 27 now, and Aaron Donald. Derbyshire up to 43 without loss, 27 off 12. That 19-ball half-century remains in danger.
Yeah, it's another outstanding shot from Donald. Like you said, he stepped away into the leg side, giving himself a little bit of room, and he's just held his shape beautifully there and just stroked it over mid-off for 6. It looked like it's gone quite a long way over the rope as well.
We've seen 3 sixes from Donald in the last 7 deliveries and a boundary 4 as well. He's on strike still. He's on 27. Sanderson is in and bowls to a full delivery.
Wow.
He swept it away. How on earth has he got that there to square leg for 4 runs? That looked for all money as though it was going to get underneath his bat and bowl him. And he's managed to, it's not really a sweep because he wasn't down on one knee. He's just flicked it away.
Yeah, I was just about to say, oh no, as it looked like it was going to sweep underneath his bat, but he's whipped his hands through there, timed it brilliantly. It's an outstanding shot in the end from an Aaron Donald, and Ben Sanderson's really under pressure at the minute. Been hit for a few boundaries this over, a 6, 2 sixes, and now a 4. And Aaron shows how inventive he can be, as well as standing still and striking it, getting down and sweeping the opening bowler for 4.
19
off to a great start.
Yeah, 19 off the over so far. Sanderson in and bowls to Donald, who again makes room for himself by stepping into the leg side, and it's a swing and a miss outside the off stump. So the over ends with a dot ball, but 19 from it. 47 without loss. Donald 31 off 14. Lloyd 14 off 10. I won't give you the Duckworth Lewis because it's irrelevant at this moment, but Derbyshire in front.
They certainly are. I think an Iron was a bit annoyed at himself still at that one. Give himself room. It looked like that was the one there to be hit as well through the offside. He just missed out on it, but like you said, Fletcher, great over for Derbyshire.
Rafi Weatherall, or Raphael as I call him. I couldn't think of any other cricketing Raphaels. I'm sure there are and have been over the years, but it's a relatively unusual name. I don't mind it. As if he cares. 47 without loss. Lloyd on strike. Weatherall bowls to him, and Lloyd swing and a miss. That's a sharp delivery.
Yeah, it looked like it bounced a little bit as well. It's exactly where Lloyd wants it, especially with this field. No third man. The man out, backward square, fine leg, and he's just bowled it short and wide. He's just missed out on that. Lloyd, it's exactly where he would have wanted it as well.
Just had a swing and a miss. What will he do this time? He's tapping his bat with some determination.
Bit
5 times, yeah, isn't it just, as Weatherall bowls to him, and he's lifted this off an edge, 1 bounce, 4 runs down to third man, gets a bit of good fortune. Opening batters deserve a bit of good fortune. 50 up for Derbyshire, 51 without loss. Lloyd moves on to 18. The partnership, just 26 deliveries they've been going, these two, so they're going at pretty much 12 and over at the moment. They needed 10s at the start. The required weight's down to 9.3. In fact, they're going at 11.8.
Yeah, it's not the best start for Rafi Weatherall. 2 short and wide ones there. You got away with the first one.
This next one's a length ball that's pushed out into the offside by Lloyd for a single. It's fielded by Ravi Bapara, who we will see bowl fairly shortly, I'm sure, and he'll take pace off, and it's like death by 1,000 cuts. It's just horrible. It's just like Stephen Mullaney. No pace on the ball whatsoever, so you've got to have your wits about you.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who's going to bowl the last over in this power play. They've run 2 from Willie, 2 from Sanderson.
This is the last ball. Oh, no, it isn't.
Ball.
No, it isn't. It isn't. No, it isn't. Calm down, everybody.
We've got another one after this.
Yeah,
another over. Yeah, it's 4.3.
Yes.
It's 5.4.
Yes.
Interesting to see who's going to bowl the last one.
You're right.
Oh, yep.
That's been smashed into the car park. Caught in just beyond the boundary by Zach Chappell. Already got his pads on. He celebrates the catch as well. Of course, those two are housemates. So I'm sure, and it's Zach Chappell's turn to drive tonight, so I'm sure he'll be mentioning the catch, the other side of the boundary to the latest 6, the fourth 6 that an Aaron Donald has hit, 37 off 15. So he's not going to get to, he could get to a 19-ball half-century if he tries. Weatherall on his way in again, conceded 11 runs off his first 4 balls. He's in and bowls, and that one has been lifted out into the offside for a 1-bounce 4. That's a glorious shot by an Aaron Donald. He moves on to 41 now. Derbyshire 62 without loss. We already had 4 overs and 5 balls.
Yeah, they're flying, and Iron's on one again, similarly to what Heading Lee's. 41 off 16 balls. He's really targeting this over here from Weatherall as well. He's got his men at deep mid-wicket, deep square, so he can't afford to offer up any width. And Iron's just backed away to the leg side there and managed to score it over cover for 4.
The other thing this can do as well, Northamptonshire will have been cock-a-hoop to have scored 193 runs, wouldn't they? And then all of a sudden, they're looking at the scoreboard. We haven't had 5 overs yet, and Derbyshire are already on 62. I mean, that can deflate a side. There's a lot of hands on hips out there for Northamptonshire. They need a wicket. Derbyshire don't. Donald waits. He's on 41. He has a swing and a miss at a short delivery that flies through to McManus. 62 without loss at the end of 5 overs. I make 15 off that one as well. So 15, 19 and 15. 49 runs off the last 3 overs. I think we're going to see...
Safe save, I think.
Was it Sikandar?
No, safe save.
Safe is going to bowl.
Left arm spinners.
Oh, yes.
We're trying to dart them in. He won't get much bounce.
He's got four balls of power play to bowl to.
Looks like he's going deep square, deep long on as well. So mid-wicket is open for Lloyd. I imagine that'll be exactly where he'll be aiming, or maybe through the offside with everybody up.
Jack Timon getting overly excited about an Aaron Donald's innings somewhere. I'm not sure if he's already left. I think he's leaving in the morning for a holiday. Zaid then in and bowls, and that one is a full delivery that Lloyd pushes back down the track. They're only going to take one, I think. There was a little bit of confusion as Saif Zaid almost got his hand to the ball, which initially prevented them from going through for a single. 63 without loss. And we can talk about Duckworth Lewis now, if we want. I'm not going to. Saif Zaid just made to wait by an Aaron Donald.
I don't think he'll be holding back here in Iron.
No, but he doesn't want to get out of shape, does he? Zaid bowls. That was a full toss. You don't want to bowl one of those to him, and it's another 6 out towards long off. It slips out of Saif Zaid's hands, I fancy. It's another 6, a 5th 6 for an Aaron Donald, who is 3 runs away from equaling his fastest Derbyshire half-century. 47 off 18 deliveries. It would be incredible if he did it twice in successive matches. Well, he has the opportunity here. I'm sure he knows, because he'll have seen it on the big scoreboard away to our right-hand side. 32 balls of the innings have been bowled. Derbyshire 69 without loss.
I know where my money is.
Saif Zaid in and bowls. It's another full toss. It's another 6. And there is the equal fastest half-century in Derbyshire history. He equals the record that he set on Sunday at Headingley with 50 off 19 deliveries. Another magnificent knock so far from an Aaron Donald, who said, if my memory is right, and Chris might be able to back me up on this, that him getting out was a major problem for Derbyshire on Sunday because he was going so well. And I know people say that, don't they? But because he was going so well, they got a couple of wickets and then all of a sudden collapsed. He'll be very wary of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a bad time for an Iron to get out when you're on 80 or 40 balls. You want someone like that to keep going. I'm sure he's got the bit between his teeth now. You want to keep going.
Next deliveries, has he been stumped?
Oh, no. I think he thought he bowled it.
He's not out.
He must be out.
He's not
He must be out.
Well, he hasn't been given out by the square leg umpire. There's a bit of confusion here. That was bizarre. He thought he'd been bowled, he hadn't. The bails came off. The stump was removed with the ball in the hand. There's lots of people querying what's going on here. I think he is out. I think...
He can't not be. He's pulled the stump out with the ball, so he's out, even if he wasn't bowled.
The umpires are conferring, so it will be a stumping rather than anything else, even though he'd advanced down the track. He's looking very sheepish, and Aaron Donald, as he leans on his bat at the striker's end. There's a shaking of the head there, interestingly, and the umpires are going to say not out. That is a huge let-off for an Aaron Donald, a huge let-off.
What has happened there?
Well, he's wandered out of his crease, no question about it.
Did the keeper knock the bails off trying to get a run out but drop the catch? I don't understand.
No, I would
love to see a replay of that.
I would like an explanation from somebody somewhere, because an Aaron Donald appears to have got away with one there. 77 without loss it remains. He's still there. Saif Zaid bowls and he goes for a little scoop. It's going to be fielded by the man at short fine leg, and he'll pick up a single to move to 54. 78 without loss with 2 balls of the 6th over to go, and that is the end of the power play. He hasn't helped himself.
Anyone knows what's happened there? Just send us a tweet, because we're not quite sure what's just happened.
The six that he hit out to square leg on a full toss was a no ball as well.
Like he got bowled, didn't he?
I think so.
Just showing the replay, it looked like he got bowled.
That was pushed into the offside by David Lloyd. We need it from the side on, or the camera over on the players' pavilion. The safe side bowls to Lloyd. He drives that out into the offside. The rain is coming, incidentally. You can see it in the distance. And they take another single, and Lloyd moves to 21. Derbyshire 79 without loss after 6 overs. 17 runs off that one, including a couple of big sixes from an Aaron Donald, who's on 54. Still, my colleagues to my left pour over the...
To be fair to Northants, they didn't seem to contest it or be upset about it.
No.
They're furious. But he just got bowled, I think.
I thought he had to be out somehow.
Yeah, if he's not bowled,
stumped,
he's ran out.
Run out, something. Because he was out. He looked out of his ground to me when the stump was removed and the ball touched against it, which is exactly what... It was a free hit. Thank you, Tim. It was a free hit from a no ball, so it could only be run out, not stumped, and wasn't going for the run. Excellent work. Thank you very much. Yeah, that one is turned into the leg side by David Lloyd. I knew somebody out there would know what was going on. Tim Chambers deserves a double name check. In fact, Ant Parry has just sent me the same message. It was a free hit as it was a no ball before. So we missed that. I've just said it was a no ball, the 6, but it still never twigged. And there we go.
I must have missed that one.
Yeah, 80 without loss.
I was too busy watching how far the ball went to notice it was a no ball.
So I assume it was an above waist height no ball. What I didn't tell you was that Freddie Heldrick is bowling now, and that one has been turned into the leg side by Donald. He's been dropped in the deep. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Is that Vasconcelos out there who has dropped the ball? He comes back for a second, and Aaron Donald dropped on 54. How important could that be?
Yeah, he never looked comfortable under that. Vasconcelos out at deep backward square. It can be difficult here at Derby when the ball goes above the lights. Can't really judge it very well. He's got away with on there, and Iron.
Aldrich comes in again, and he's launched that down the ground. Is that going to go in between the two fielders? It's a one bounce 4, I think.
I think it's 6.
It is 6. It's just crept over the boundary. My word, that's his 7th 6 to go along with his 3 4s. He moves on to... Sorry?
7 6s.
7 6s he's hit now in his 62. Derbyshire 88 without loss. That rain, as soon as it wants to arrive, will do me nicely.
What's the record 6s in T27?
Great question, William.
I
Glad you
actually
asked.
spoke with Wes Durston about this the other day.
Heldrick bowls. There's another one out towards the mid-wicket boundary. That is huge.
I think that's
from an Aaron Donald. So that could be a record.
I think that's a record.
8-6 in an innings for an Aaron Donald.
I spoke with Wes Durston at Denstone College while I was coaching the other day, and I think he mentioned that he might have hit 7 6s in his 100, and that was a record, but I'm sure Griff will know.
Griff will know.
8 6s.
Yeah, he will know. No question about it. Jack Timon putting it down to the lucky breakfast that he had with Samet and Zach Chappell this morning. I think it's probably down to his...
Well, he loves a barbecue, doesn't he? Saw on Zach Chappell, they have a barbecue every night on Instagram. Him and Zach Chappell like Dumb and Dumber.
Well, here is Heldrick in to bowl. Oh, he waits for that one. The bails are whipped off. The appeal for stump is turned down by umpire Neil Mallander as his back foot never left the crease, and he very helpfully rearranges the stumps. 94 without loss, Derbyshire. They are 40 ahead of Duckworth Lewis Stern at this stage. 40.
I think it's fair to say an Aaron Donald is in 5th gear and he's not coming back down.
Heldrick bowls, and he's launched this down the ground. This time he's going to be out. I'm sure he's going to be caught at long off. He is caught at long off, and he goes for 68 off 26 deliveries. It was a good sliding catch. Boos ring around at the county ground because the Derbyshire supporters, wanted to see more of an Aaron Donald, but he's been caught by Saif Zaib down in the distance. 94 for 1 Derbyshire, and we're only in, or we've had 7 overs. My word. He eventually hit 3 4s and 8 6s.
8 sixes in 9 all 68.
And it's a magnificent effort. It was a decent catch, actually, to be fair to Safe Save down in the distance. And Heldrick, well, concedes 15 runs off the over. Derbyshire 94 for 1.
Wayne Madsen out at 3 as well. No better man to come out in this situation when Derbyshire are ahead of the game. Not as much pressure on scoring runs. It gives Wayne a chance to get himself in, ease himself into the innings, and hopefully for Derbyshire fans, anchor this innings home and see the boys home.
Nick Buxton also telling us that you can't be stumped off a no ball. Thank you, Nick. It's just the fools in the commentary box who didn't spot it. Everybody out there watching on the stream and listening in clearly spotted it. Here we go then. Ravi Bopara in and bowls to David Lloyd, who clips that one nicely into the leg side for a single. The good thing is that they don't really have to attack Ravi Bopara. 7.8 the required rate if they're going to go the distance. Duckworth Lewis has just tightened up a touch. They're only 35 ahead of it now after the wicket of an Aaron Donald. It does. A clatter of wickets would not only affect Duckworth Lewis, but it would also affect Derbyshire's hopes of winning this game. 95 for 1 they are. Wayne Madsen to face his first delivery. This is an older matchup than the Samit Patel to Ravi Bopara one. In goes Bopara and bowls to Madsen down the leg side. They're claiming a catch, and he's been caught down the leg side. Wayne Madsen goes for a first ball duck, and that could be problems for Derbyshire. He tried to flick it away down the leg side. McManus was across nicely to take the catch, and Ravi Bopara takes the second wicket to fall. 95 for 2 now, Derbyshire.
That's so unlucky. Caught down leg side, first ball. The main man, Wayne Madsen, gone. It's just seemed perfectly set up for Wayne, this run chase now, with getting off to such a good start and the run rate coming down with not really much pressure on the scoring rate, for him to just be able to manage this innings and see it through. But unfortunate to get caught down the leg side. But Samit Patel comes out now, another very experienced player. Hopefully he can play a similar role to what we said Madsen could do.
Got to do it right here, right now.
Nice.
Thank you very much.
Nice.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's a song I recognised. I just thought I better get it in there. Yes. So, Ravi Bopara to Wayne Madsen. It's like a Masters tournament out here at the moment. Samit Patel has replaced Wayne Madsen, and Ravi Bopara's bowling. I think I'm in 1999. Here comes Bopara then. Past the umpire, bowls to Samit, who chops this into the ground, and he's going to pick up his first run off the bottom edge. Straight past wicketkeeper McManus. 96 for 2. It hasn't affected Duckworth Lewis massively, in fairness. They're still 30 in front. It just sort of chipped 10 runs off the Duckworth Lewis, so that rain could stay away for a while now. Well, Derbyshire just regroup a little bit. David Lloyd on 23 off 18. Samit with the 1 run from the 1 delivery that he's faced. 96 for 2. Here is Bopara in and bowls, and Lloyd pushes that out nicely into the offside. He fancies 2 here. I'm not sure whether Samit does, as the fielder in the deep gets there. I think that's Vasconcelos out there, and they go through for another single. There won't be many quick 2s, I think it's fair to say. Will there? 8 sixes by an Aaron Donald is a new individual record in T20s for Derbyshire. Well done, Woody. I'll be back with you again in a minute. Here is Bopara. I was thinking he's going to get there quicker than he does. He doesn't, and that one is guided backward and square on the offside by Patel for another single. He moves on to 298 for 2. Chris Adams with 10 in List A, and Martin Gupta with 11 in first class have ever scored more in an innings. So presumably that will be Wes Durston's previous record. Poor old Wes is getting knocked out of the record books. I'm sure he'll be watching on somewhere, keeping abreast of how Derbyshire are doing. 98 for 2 in the 8th over, chasing 187 to beat Northamptonshire for their 3rd win of the season with the rain approaching. Here is Bopara. In and bowls. That one is pulled into the leg side by Lloyd. It's 1-2 bounces by the time it gets to the fielder, and they're only going to get a single for it as it's fielded out there in the deep. And it's the end of Ravi Bopara's first over, thank goodness. 5 off it, 99 for 2 Derbyshire after 8 overs. He starts his run up and I say Ravi's on his way in.
And he slows down.
And another 30 seconds later he gets to the crease. I mean, it's remarkable, really, isn't it? Absolutely remarkable. Yeah, here is Freddie Heldrick to bowl his second over. His first one went for 15, but he did pick up the wicket in the end of an Aaron Donald for a very impressive 68 off 26 delivery. Here comes Heldrick then in bowls. It's a full delivery that Lloyd waits for and pushes out into the offside, out towards the cover boundary for a single, moves to 26. The Derbyshire 100 comes up, 100 for 2 at the start of the 9th over. Almost inevitably, Germany have scored another. It's 4-0 now to the Germans against Scotland. 10-man Scotland, of course, having had a man sent off in the first half, Ryan Porteous being shown a red card for the Scots. Next to delivery is a horrible one, and it's pulled into the leg side by Samit Patel. He dragged that one down, Heldrick, as they do occasionally leg spinners. Left arm leggy is Heldrick. Not a huge number of left arm leg spinners in the game. He's on his way in. Once again, bowling to David Lloyd on 26, 101 for 2, bowls to him, another full delivery that's dug out almost and driven down the ground out towards long on for a single. That rain's got to hit at some time, surely to goodness.
I think it's almost sliding.
You think that's sliding down sliding past the east?
It's going down the A52, that.
But what about the rain?
That does look
That looks horrible.
The travel
Yeah, it looks horrible.
As they say, that's where it comes from round here.
102 for 2. Heldrick bowls. Samit Patel lifts him for 6 out towards the backward square leg boundary. That's a magnificent stroke. That is the perfect slog sweep from Samit Patel, who on the big screen plays a defensive shot. Doesn't play many of those in T20 cricket. 108 for 2 now Derbyshire with 2 balls of the 9th over to go. Just showing a replay of that one. He was down nice and early and away it went. Great elevation, cleared the boundary rope by 3 or 4 yards. Backward square leg, and he's got Vasconcelos out there, so he's not the tallest, is he?
This is the way Derbyshire, well, Samit wants Derbyshire to play. He wants him to come out and be aggressive. I think it would be easy now to come out at the run rate at 7.7.
Push it around.
Just knock it around a bit and be smart.
This time he has been caught by Vasconcelos out a backward square leg. That is a sensational catch, diving full length, held onto it as well, having dropped a catch earlier off an Aaron Donald. He's held on this time. Samit goes for 9 and Derbyshire 108 for 3.
Just as I was just saying, it might be a good idea to play smart. Samit's just hit him for a 6. You're miles ahead of the run rate. The Duckworth-Lewis, the run rate is not an issue. The only issue for Derbyshire now will be losing wickets. I'm not sure that's the smartest bit of cricket from Samit there. He's just took him for a 6. You're miles ahead of the game, and he's just thrown his wicket away there and put his team under even more pressure. You'd like to think the captain would be able to take responsibility and see the ship home and get the boys over the line. I know that's the way, I say, the modern game. I've only just finished playing, but people want to come out.
It's moved on, Woody. It's moved on,
want to be aggressive regardless and put the bowlers under pressure, but you're miles ahead of the game.
It's a brilliant catch.
Just not the smartest bit of cricket, I don't think.
No, I'd say that's fair, but I thought it was a terrific catch.
Yeah, well, there's no taking away from that. It's a terrific catch, outstanding catch, but you shouldn't have had the chance to catch it in the first place.
I'm getting a slight Sunday flashback here because Derbyshire got to 10 overs and then lost wickets in each over, it seemed, after that. Well, they've now lost wickets in 3 successive overs, 108 for 3. As Heldrick bowls to Fletcher, who gets a bit of a leading edge out into the offside, fielded at extra cover, 108 for 3 at the end of 9 overs, so another 9 runs off that one from Heldrick. Ravi Bopara's not going to go for more than 5 or 6 and over. I think we can safely put those in the book even now, and a decent finish coming up at Edgbaston. Well, I say decent, Birmingham just hit a couple of boundaries. And they need 18 off 24 balls to beat Yorkshire at Edgbaston. Already wins tonight for Lancashire by 25 runs against Leicestershire in the North Group, and of course Nottinghamshire by 1 run under Duckworth Lewis Stern against Worcestershire at New Road. Here is Bapara bowling to David Lloyd, who just drives this out square into the offside for a single. The required rate is around 8. They don't need to take any chances for the next, 5, 6, 7 overs. They're still more than 25 ahead of Duckworth Lewis. If that rain arrives and causes the end of the game, they would be in front, largely thanks to an Aaron Donald 68 off 26 with those record 8 sixes in a T20 innings. In comes Bapara again, bowling to Fletcher, who guides this to backward point, and there is no run. We shouldn't expect too many runs to come off Bapara, though, because he's such a canny operator. He bowled terrifically well in the game at Wantage Road earlier in the campaign.
He is, and I think that's what makes Samit's decision even more baffling. This is evidently going to be the most difficult part of the game, with Bapara's pace off and his variations. And when the team is under very small amount of pressure, got off to a flying start thanks to an Aaron Donald. He then gets out. Wayne Madsen then gets out first ball. You've lost 2 quick wickets. You're miles ahead of the game still. There's no need to take a risk like that, having just hit a 6 and put yourself under more pressure, put the team under more pressure. It's just made it harder for his teammates.
Cam Fletcher's off the mark with a single bunted up towards mid-on, 110 for 3. Bapara bowling to David Lloyd on 28. Lloyd just pushes that backward and square on the offside, and there's no run. 4 balls of the Bapara over have gone. And so far, just a couple of runs from it. Conceded 5 off his first. He's got 1 for 7 off. 10 deliveries now, Ravi Bapara. 110 for 3.
It's raining again now. Get him off.
It's pouring down. It's an absolute disgrace that they're still out there.
Get him off.
Here is Bapara in and bowls to Lloyd. It's important they don't lose a wicket now, especially. He's cracked that away to the cover boundary. They're going to come back for the second as well. They're going to get back comfortably enough too. Lloyd moves on to 30, 112 for 3. The umpire's just looking at the sky. They won't see too much because it's dark, but there is definitely rain coming out of it. Although it's just eased off a little bit, just a brief shower. Northamptonshire won't want to leave this field. Derbyshire would be more than happy to, I fancy, but then we'll have some very serious calculations, because having lost 1 over, we're going to start losing overs as soon as they leave the field here. 112 for 3. They are 23 runs ahead of Duckworth Lewis Stern as things stand. They don't want to lose a wicket, though, just in case. As the long... the deep, good grief, long off goes out, and the fine leg comes up to the edge of the circle. Back into his crease goes Fletcher and pushes this out to Vasconcelos on the cover boundary. It's the end of the Bapara over. 5 more runs conceded by him. 113 for 3, Derbyshire at the halfway stage. At the halfway stage, 79 for 2 were Northamptonshire. I know it's a changed dynamic now, but they've had a really good first half. They had a really good first half at Headingley and then threw it away. They cannot afford to throw this really good position away. They need 8.2 and over.
100%. We know that T20 cricket happens so quickly. Things can change from one ball to the next, and having just lost 2 very quick wickets, to then throw another one away there just adds the pressure on. Just be smart now and build a partnership. There's not really any stress with the run rate. You're miles ahead of Duckworth Lewis. You can afford to just be smart here, build a partnership, and then take it deep with men in.
Single off the first ball of the Heldrick over as Lloyd pushes it up towards long on. A man is coming in from short fine leg into catching mid-wicket, so they don't have anybody down at fine leg as Fletcher waits. Heldrick bowls to him. He launches that down the ground for 6. That one has gone 2/3 of the way up or a third of the way up rather, the permanent temporary stand at the far end of the ground. Not quite as big, although it probably was because it was a bit wider, as big as that an Aaron Donald 6 down the ground. And Cam Fletcher picks up his first 6 of the innings. Derbyshire move on to 120 for 3. And they need 67 more runs to win.
Cam Fletcher's not messing around either, is he? He's taking a leaf out of the captain's book. 4th ball launched into the stands.
Well, we were told he could hit a long ball. He didn't hit too many long balls at Headingley in a very disappointing second half of the innings. 120 for 3 here, though, as Heldrick is in, and this time he goes back and cuts. He's going to get a single. There was a little hand on that from Bapara that took the pace off it. He gets back to his feet. Fletcher moves to 8. 121 for 3. 66 to win. They're 26 runs ahead of Duckworth Lewis at this stage. It's chucking it down now, by the way.
Get him off.
Yeah, Heldrick is in. He won't be able to hold this ball, and there's a sweep attempted there by David Lloyd. It's wide down the leg side as he makes no contact with it. 122 for 3. The big screen tells us it's a wide, but it really is hammering it down out there. And all the time they're off the field. Every 3 minutes we'll lose another over.
Yeah, Mallanders does not look happy here. He's got his hands on his hips. He wants to go off, I think.
He never looks massively happy, Neil. He's a very nice man, but he never looks happy. But then again, he's a Leeds United fan, so why would he? That one is pushed by Lloyd up towards a tumbling David Willey at mid-off. Yeah, where's the ground? The ground staff, well, they're ready and poised away to our right-hand side. Neil Godrich and the rest of his team as Lloyd waits. Heldrick with 2 balls of this over to go. As bowled one down the leg side, he's got a top edge on that one over the wicketkeeper's head for a single. He moves to 33 off 29. 123 for 3. Derbyshire needs 64 to win if we stay out there. I'm just having a look now. It's raining just as heavily now as it was 2 or 3 minutes ago. Tumbling down. The Derbyshire supporters won't be too disappointed if Derbyshire go off here either. As another goal goes in the Euros, as this one is guided down towards short third man. A big shout of no from David Lloyd. Over comes to an end. 123 for 3 rather. 10 off that over. The umpires are conferring here. They've got to go off. Surely it is absolutely. And there we are. David Lloyd can't get off quick enough.
What time is it?
It's a good shout, that, Woody. Yeah, 21:50 when the rain comes. And we will lose an over about every 3 minutes and 20 seconds. So
it's absolutely hammering it down now.
It is chucking it down, isn't it? That is heavy, heavy rain. Derbyshire 123 for 3. DLS says they need to be on 100, so they're comfortably in front on that. David Lloyd has 33 off 29, and Cam Fletcher is on 8 off 6. So Derbyshire theoretically need 64 to win, but DLS says that they're 23 runs in front as the rain hammers down at the county ground. And it looks as though, Chris, that innings from an Aaron Donald of 68 off 26 deliveries with 3 4s and 8 6s, a record 8 6s in a T20 match for Derbyshire, might have pushed them close to their 3rd win of the season.
Yeah, he's done it again as an Aaron Donald. Disappointment here this time last week. Out first ball, but then has responded brilliantly with that excellent innings at Headingley, and he's backed it up again this evening. So Derbyshire look very well set, and as Fletcher and Tom have said, it is absolutely hammering down now. This is probably the heaviest rain we've seen all day here at the county ground, and you would suspect, Tom, that would be that, because this rain does not look like it's going anytime soon, albeit it's much harder to tell now that it's dark. But by the time it goes, covers are off, players are back on, you sense we're going to be losing a good 20, 25 minutes, half an hour, which would be enough for Derbyshire to win. Yeah,
I think that was looking likely as it stands. Like you said, it's raining heavier now than it has all evening. The ground staff are moving a lot more urgently, which is always a sign that the forecast is not good. Like we mentioned before, they always seem to know a little bit more than everybody else knows. So yeah, I think this rain obviously helps Derbyshire. The more time that gets taken out of this game, it only ever goes in Derbyshire's favour from here on now.
3 minutes and 45 seconds. Every time we get that, we lose an over, so we've nearly lost one already.
Start the clock.
Yeah.
Start the clock. So we're going to be going until what time's the cut? So 20 past 10.
Well, the original cut-off was 10:15, but I think if they're not on by 10:15, then the game is done and dusted.
Yep.
Quite what that means for us, having to talk for another 25 minutes about the rain hammering down.
I'll find something.
Start the car.
and being asked questions. So, yeah, Douglas Lewis says that they need to be on 100 after the next ball, in actual fact. So, yeah, 23 runs in front of Douglas Lewis. But just reply to this tweet or text that I've just been having. This rain, look at it bouncing on the covers down there. I mean, this is
game-ending stuff.
End of the game rain, isn't it?
This is
end of the game rain. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I might even put my coat on and start making my way.
I was about to say, look forward to battling through this.
Yeah,
I could get electrocuted.
You could. Health and safety.
This is good rain, this. Exactly.
Yes.
Good rain, especially when you're ahead on Duckworth Lewis. There's two types of rain in cricket. There's good rain when you're ahead of the game and it rains, and then there's bad rain. It's either before the game where it's wasted,
yes,
or when you're a little bit behind the game and you need to get in front of it. But this is most certainly the best rain you've ever seen for Derbyshire.
I've had an idea, actually. I think it might be nice for Woody to do the post-match interviews.
It's a great idea, yeah. Off you go.
He's only got a light jacket on. He's only got a light jacket on. We'll spare him that, but I will get round there and hopefully we'll get you some reaction to what looks like being a third win of the season for Derbyshire, an important third win of the season as well. We said before, they couldn't really afford to lose 2 games to Northamptonshire, who are one of those teams who you would expect to be battling for third, fourth, that kind of thing. Looks like Lancashire are sort of running away. Another win tonight, I think that might be their 5th win of the season, as the big sheet is now being dragged on by the ground staff as well. And not only is that good because it means that it's raining really heavy, but it'll take them even longer to get it off. And by the time Derbyshire come back, if they have to come back for 1 over, they probably won't need any runs, which is remarkable. Stephen is worried. He's just coming behind us. He's worried because he's got to walk round there and sort out the post-match interviews as well. So that's 2 of us who are quite worried about the rain.
Tell them to come here.
Yes, yeah. Or you could take an umbrella and bring them over. I'm not suggesting you do that at all. Stephen's got something to tell me.
Yeah, looking at the T20 Blast table, Fletcher's right. Lancashire now 5 from 6, Yorkshire 3 from 4, but that presumably is their match at Edgbaston pending, because I presume if it's pouring down here, it might be absolutely hammering it down. Yeah, in fact, Birmingham beat Yorkshire by 4 wickets, so Yorkshire have lost today. Northants on 3 wins from 4, Leicestershire 3 from 6, and Derbyshire, should they get that 2 points, would shoot right up in the mix. They'd move into the top 4. So, as mentioned prior to this match, it was always important that this double-header was taken advantage of by Derbyshire. This is the perfect start.
Yeah, it is. I think 3 wins from 6 has a better ring to it than 2 from 6. That is for sure. They're right in the mix. I think it goes without saying now that this game is finished. Looking out the window. So Derbyshire have got 3 wins out of 6, 6 points on the board. They're in a good position to be able to push on for the top 4.
I think the real shame, Woody, is that they're not going to get to finals day, because it looks like the end of the world out there at the moment. I don't think they're going to have a finals day this year, because this looks apocalyptic.
I fear for the cars parked on the grass bank outside.
They'll be sliding into our cars, which is a bit of a concern.
That's true.
The other thing I'm not 100% sure about, they had a pretty decent net run rate anyway at 0.29. Nobody knows how net run rate works, and we couldn't even begin to guess. But it will clearly improve on that, so they will move above Leicestershire. They might just sneak above Northamptonshire into 3rd place. I don't think they can get enough of an improvement in net run rate to get up to Yorkshire's, which is 0.939, despite the fact that I'm not even sure if their defeat today has been included in the table I'm looking at, actually. So that will come down a touch. But to go into their 6th match in 2nd or 3rd place in the North Group is exactly where Derbyshire would have wanted to have been. The weather forecast for Sunday, as we've talked about weather constantly this summer, haven't we? I say summer. So I would suggest that Derbyshire will be very happy with where they find themselves once this game is finally abandoned, which, I mean, I'd be absolutely staggered if it wasn't. The ground staff, they've even not bothered putting the hoods up anymore because they are drenched. I dread to think what I'm going to look like when I get back from the far side of the ground. I will give it a go, though. Rain stops play, it says. Duckworth Lewis score is, at the end of the 11th over, is actually 99. So they're 24 runs in front of Duckworth Lewis and heading for what will be a resounding victory in actual fact.
And in the end, judged to perfection. I know you look at an Iron Donald's innings 68 from 26, 8 sixes and 3 fours. David Lloyd has played a very good hand himself. He's not out, 33 from 29. We were wondering how they might pace the innings, and in the end, because of Nye's hitting, they got themselves in a very good position very early on.
Yeah, I'm not sure there was much judging about it, to be fair to them. I think Irons came out and played the way he's always going to play regardless of the situation, which ultimately has put Derbyshire miles ahead of the game. I think if they were trying to judge it a little bit more, you might have seen a little bit more circumspection from Samit especially, and even Cam Fletcher was getting in on the act at the end there. But that's the way they want to play. That's what Samit said. They want to come out and be aggressive and take the positive approach regardless of the game situation. And yeah, I think it's more down to an Irons brilliance than tactical nous, I'd say.
A couple of things there. The first 3 balls he faced, he didn't score from. So in effect, he's got himself a 16-ball half-century. I know it's a 19-ball half-century for the record books, but that's how good he was. And Stephen Martin from the media team, who has just come in and given me the best news I think I've had in my 61 years on this earth. They're going to bring the players to us.
Excellent, that's wonderful.
Oh, flash of lightning, which means we can't come back on for 20 minutes.
Is that right?
I believe so.
Neil's just signalled that's game over.
Yeah, that is it. Well, they're not going to stay out there. The ground staff won't stay out there. They're not allowed to go near the covers. It's the same in club cricket as well. We had this last season up at my club in an away game, and there was a flash of lightning, and they're not allowed to touch the covers once there's a flash of lightning for 20 minutes. I'm sure it is. It might even be half an hour. Okay. So that will be that, and Derbyshire will win this game.
The cut-off time now is 10:15 from my calculations, and there's absolutely no chance there's going to be any cricket played in the next 15 minutes.
I'd be surprised if there was any cricket played on this ground in the next 10 years, given the amount of rain that we have. But it will be back in shipshape for Sunday. We start with the first part of a double header. You better watch that on the stream, on the Derbyshire stream. It's the Blaze taking on the South East Stars. The Blaze already through to finals day, which is here the following Saturday, I think it is. So there's 2 semi-finals and a final in the women's T20 competition a week tomorrow here at the County Ground in Derby, and then at 4 o'clock on Sunday we have Derbyshire against the Birmingham Bears, which will be the first meeting of the sides this season. They meet down at Edgbaston in the second half of the campaign, but they'll be in good shape, Chris. They'll be in really good shape. I'm getting more excited about this T20 side, which is why Sunday was so disappointing, because it was sort of uncharacteristic. And you mentioned it's the way Samit wants this team to play, and then he got out, but it is the way that he wants this team to play. He doesn't want them to push the ball around for 1s and 2s when they're more than capable of doing so, and it's fairly comfortable to do so. He wants them to keep going hard all the time. It's the way that England play. It's the way that Samit Patel wants Derbyshire to play.
Yeah, that is, you're exactly spot on. I think the way England played leading up to all the success in the white ball cricket, he obviously was ultra aggressive and very positive at all times, but I think they balanced that with a little bit of smarts and now. So you look at the T20, at the 50 over World Cup win, if Ben Stokes would have tried to slog one, he took his time, he built his innings, he used his brain, he took it deep, he was still positive. If he'd have gone out all guns blazing and smacked one up on 10, it would have been a completely different story. I think, yes, going out and being positive and taking the positive approach at all times, it looks good when it comes off.
Game is over, incidentally. Derbyshire have won this one. The game has officially been abandoned. I've just been told by the scorer, Jane, next door. So, as we suspected,
yes.
I mean, they're not getting back out there anytime soon. They can't because of the lightning. And Derbyshire win this one, by my calculations, by 24 runs, possibly. But I'm not sure.
No, we'll take that.
No, because they won't. They'll win it by 7 wickets, won't they? Under Duckworth Lewis Stern, will they? I don't know. I don't know how this works.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Jane what the official.
But yeah, just going back to my point, I think when people play so positively and aggressively, because of the risk is so much higher, it's just not going to be as consistent. Whereas if you can balance that positive, ultra-aggressive approach with a little bit of smarts, you're going to be a lot more consistent.
Go on.
24 runs.
24 runs.
Yeah, well, it's bizarre for the team batting second to win by runs. They normally win by wickets, don't they? So which is why I got slightly confused there. But officially it goes down as a 24-run win under Duckworth, Lewis, Stern.
And there is
the official announcement. I don't think there was any doubt about it, but there's still a fair few people in, because that was quite a roar, wasn't it, from inside the county ground. And hopefully those who've been here tonight can come back on Sunday when there's a bit of sun around. There's more lightning there, so there is no way they could have restarted this one. And hopefully we'll get to speak, I'm being told, potentially to an Aaron Donald, who's always good value, and Darren Dupavilon might come over as well. So two good friends of Radio Derby. Darren Dupavilon was on the radio about 2 days after he arrived in the country, and then he was on the week after as well, because two different people set the guest up. So poor bloke.
He was too polite to say I've already done it.
He said, no, I can't do it. No, he was more than happy to come over. So we'll sort out the headphones when they arrive.
Yes, we'll worry about that when we have to worry about that. On the mindset, and I guess more the psychological aspect of the way Derbyshire are playing now, and under Samet, and I know Fletch, we've spoken about psychologically now, because there are winners in this team, or at least the people that have won the T20 Blast. That makes such a huge difference. I suppose it's more not, as you say, slogging every ball for six. It is when the going gets tough to try and be aggressive, and that's kind of been the inverted commas Bazball approach, hasn't it? Bazball is not necessarily about smashing every ball for six. It's about when we're behind in the game, we are just going to keep going. And yes, you might accept the odd collapse, but the mindset eventually will work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the mindset, the approach is to try and take the positive option at all times. And for me, sometimes that positive option in that situation, if the rain wouldn't have come, would be to try and build a partnership and kill the game. Because if Samet and David Lloyd are there at the end with a few overs left, it's game over. The only way Northamptonshire, get back into that game from that position is if they get quick wickets. And playing in that ultra-aggressive way without really playing the percentages or having any sort of tactical finesse or nous is just only ever going to open the door to Northampton and give them a sniff. Where I think the positive approach is to try and, when you've got a team down, keep them down. Don't just hand the momentum back to them. They've already got 2 quick wickets. Rather than giving away another one, just play sensibly, play smart. Yes, still be positive, but take the positive approach in what's going to ultimately give you the best chance of winning.
And talking of momentum, Derbyshire have in David Lloyd and Aaron Donald, 2 players. I know it's only been 2 matches.